Alright, 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 alright. Here we go. Drunk cameraman, drunk cameraman. That's the best I can say about them. No, I can say they're pretty good at their job, considering that they work for nothing. No, not the filters. Ugh. With the properties. Alright, we got that far. Cool. I don't hear any audio.
With Google Pixel.
There we go. All better.
Hello, sir, and welcome.
Hello, everybody.
The guild that
How y'all doing?
the most daring, the most dashing, the most charismatic of adventurers. Well, that sounds a little bit like me. I would like to join the Rangers Guild. No. What do you mean no? Sir, you are nowhere near charismatic enough. Oh, of course. Oh, sorry, hang on. Sorry, 1 second. Where is it? Where is it? Hang on. In the end. Oh, here it is. Here it is. I would like to join the Rangers Guild. Well, hello, sir. You seem like the perfect fit for the Rangers Guild. Thank you. In fact, you may be one of the most charismatic adventurers I have ever seen. Well, just between you and me, this is not the first time that I have heard that. I bet not.
It's not the first time he's heard that.
Well, anyway, I assume I go this way. Come on through, sir. Thank you very much. And good luck. Enjoy the Rangers Guild. Oh, one other thing. See? What about doing in the Rangers costume slot? How did you get there, sir? How did you get there? Sir! This is Rangers Guild territory only! I came here to tell you to subscribe. Why not? Why are you not? Oh, hey, sorry.
Hey, Jackie. How you doing this morning? Ooh, that tea's running through me. The tea is running through me.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Cold Fusion. This was Google in 1998. My friends, something... Hi, welcome welcome to another episode of Cold Fusion. This was Google in 1998.
So we're right between that house and this house. We're renting this half of the house. Ping pong table, computer. Go to the other side of the office. There's Larry, CEO of Google. Say something, Larry. Listen. Hi.
It was a small company run out of the garage of Susan Wojcicki, who is, interestingly, the current CEO of YouTube. Simply from recognizing the value of organizing information on the web, Google managed to grow from a few tinkering PhD students to a formidable giant that now owns over
Hi,
90%
Jackie.
of search
How you doing today?
and carries out over 8 billion search queries per day. For 2 decades now, Google has been the undisputed king of web searches. The term Google has been synonymous with searching for information. Need a recipe,
Heck,
or a
Google it.
movie review, or just
Google it.
settling an argument with a friend?
Right?
You can just
Google
Google
it.
it. With a net worth of $1.15
Oof.
trillion in 2022,
I'm gonna try
they
to clean
seem
this out.
unstoppable. So what exactly could make a massive company like Google panic? So much so that they issued an internal code red. Well, it's OpenAI's ChatGPT, of course. With Microsoft's plans to integrate the AI system into their search engine, Bing, Google Search may face a serious threat for the first time in its history.
Oof.
Could this be one of the biggest technology story arcs in history? While making this episode, I kind of felt like we're at the beginning of an AI war.
We are at the beginning
So
of
in
an
the
AI
following,
war.
we'll learn what Google might do about the situation. They're actually already fighting back. We'll get into that. And we'll also see why exactly ChatGPT is such a threat to Google's central business model. Let's take a look.
To transform just about every industry, including education, ChatGPT passed the U.S. medical licensing exam, the bar exam, and got a B on a Wharton MBA paper.
A conversational chatbot capable of responding to any query in a human-like manner always seemed to be a technology of the future, for the masses anyway, until ChatGPT. Following its release, ChatGPT has garnered huge attention from around the world. To give you an idea of the scale of this moment, ChatGPT has been the fastest app in history to reach 100 million users. It's taken just 2 months, whereas TikTok took 9 and Instagram 30. A rapid adoption rate is a classic early signal of a disruptive product or technology. A couple of months ago, we took a deep dive into ChatGPT. Since then, it's been updated and is better than ever. However, as I previously stated, it's important to know that it's not perfect and may sometimes give bias or outright incorrect information. If you want to see that episode on ChatGPT and OpenAI's views on the future of these systems in more detail, the link for that episode can be found in the description below. Microsoft is looking to capitalize, namely by putting this technology in their search engine, Bing. The massive implications of this will be discussed later in the episode. But for now, we've got to find out something. How did Microsoft and OpenAI get involved with each other in the first place? The alliance between the two started in 2019 when Microsoft invested $1 billion into OpenAI. This was very crucial for both companies. OpenAI needed some cash as well as the computing power of Microsoft's Azure cloud services. This allowed the AI research firm to scale and drastically reduce its operating costs. Microsoft, on the other hand, was able to acquire OpenAI's intellectual property portfolio in the process. In essence, Microsoft now has access to some of the world's best AI technology, giving it a competitive edge over other major players in the tech industry. Since then, Microsoft and OpenAI have been working together on various projects.
And specifically, ChatGPT. CEO Satya Nadella saying its impact will be, quote, at the magnitude of the personal computer, the internet,
Yeah, I would say so,
devices,
yes.
and the cloud.
When Microsoft made the bombshell announcement that they were integrating ChatGPT into Bing, Google was in shock. An emergency code red situation was declared, and I could imagine the frantic meetings. One Google executive told the New York Times it was a make or break moment for the company. But wait, this is Google we're talking about. The company with far and away the world's leading search engine. They dominate 90% of search queries. Microsoft, with their dinky little Bing, accounts for only 9% of worldwide desktop searches in 2022. So why is Google panicking? Google is looking at what might happen in the future and not what's happening today. Chatbots are not new, but the level of performance seen by ChatGPT definitely is. The thing that sets it apart from the Medicore chatbots of the past is that it's a generative pre-trained transformer, or GPT. In plain language, it just means that it's been trained on billions of parameters and petabytes of text. This training allows the system to generate new text in a way that mimics the understanding of a wide range of queries and can respond accordingly. ChatGPT, or the inevitable flood of AI assistants, has the potential to revolutionize how we interact with search engines. Microsoft could see this as well, and that's why they've been betting on OpenAI and its technology. Hi, welcome to another episode of Cold Fusion. This was Google in 1998.
So we're right between that house and this house. We're renting this half of the house. Ping pong table, computer. Go to the other side of the office. There's Larry, CEO of Google. Say something like that. Hi.
It was a small company run out of the garage of Susan Wojcicki, who is, interestingly, the current CEO of YouTube. Simply from recognizing the value of organizing information on the web, Google managed to grow from a few tinkering PhD students to a formidable giant that now owns over 90% of search and carries out over 8 billion search queries per day. For 2 decades now, Google has been the undisputed king of web searches. The term Google has been synonymous with searching for information. Need a recipe, or a movie review, or just settling an argument with a friend? You can just Google it. With a net worth of $1.15 trillion in 2022, they seem unstoppable. So what exactly could make a massive company like Google panic? So much so that they issued an internal code red. Well, it's OpenAI's ChatGPT, of course. With Microsoft's plans to integrate the AI system into their search engine, Bing, Google Search may face a serious threat for the first time in its history. Could this be one of the biggest technology story arcs in history? While making this episode, I kind of felt like we're at the beginning of an AI war. So in the following, we'll learn what Google might do about the situation. They're actually already fighting back. We'll get into that. And we'll also see why exactly ChatGPT is such a threat to Google's central business model. Let's take a look.
I'm vaccinated with Prevnar 20, a Pfizer vaccine.
So am I, because I'm...
It would transform just about every industry, including education. ChatGPT passed the U.S. medical licensing exam, the bar exam, and got a B on a Wharton MBA paper.
A conversational chatbot capable of responding to any query in a human-like manner always seemed to be a technology of the future, for the masses anyway, until ChatGPT. Following its release, ChatGPT has garnered huge attention from around the world. To give you an idea of the scale of this moment, ChatGPT has been the fastest app in history to reach 100 million users. It's taken just 2 months, whereas TikTok took 9 and Instagram 30. A rapid adoption rate is a classic early signal of a disruptive product or technology. A couple of months ago, we took a deep dive into ChatGPT. Since then, it's been updated and is better than ever. However, as I previously stated, it's important to know that it's not perfect and may sometimes give bias or outright incorrect information. If you want to see that episode on ChatGPT and OpenAI's views on the future of these systems in more detail, the link for that episode can be found in the description below. Microsoft is looking to capitalize, namely by putting this technology in their search engine, Bing. The massive implications of this will be discussed later in the episode. But for now, we've got to find out something. why did Microsoft and OpenAI get involved with each other in the first place? The alliance between the two started in 2019 when Microsoft invested $1 billion into OpenAI.
Let's talk about the GigaPress. Hey everybody, it's Jim here, and today I'm going to be answering a few questions, a few of which have been asked by several people, including our...
On Mel Waters' property in the Manastash Ridge west of Ellensburg, Washington, there's a hole in the ground that looks like a well. But it's not a well. Like the owners of the property before him, Mel used the hole as a trash dump. His neighbors used it too. Garbage, broken appliances, old tires, everything went into the hole. After a while, Mel started to wonder, why doesn't it fill up? And then he started to notice other strange things about the hole. His dogs wouldn't go near it. It caused his radio to pick up strange signals, and it didn't seem to have a bottom. Mel's curiosity became an obsession. Well, let's see if we can get to the bottom of Mel's hole. Mel's hole is a round pit 9 feet 9 inches in diameter. There's a stone retaining wall built around it that goes down about 15 feet. After that, the hole extends down into darkness. Well, not only did Mel Waters and his wife dump everything in the hole, but so did his neighbors. And this has been going on for a long time, for years before Mel even moved in. Mel's neighbors said they couldn't remember a time when the hole wasn't there. So why can't you hear objects hitting the bottom? Why can't you hear your own echo? Mel set out to determine exactly how far down this hole goes. An avid fisherman, Mel had spools of fishing line on hand. So he attached a 1-pound weight to the line and sent it down the hole. It went 4,500 feet, the full length of the reel, and didn't hit bottom. He reeled the line up, attached a roll of lifesavers, and sent it all the way down again. Mel wanted to see if there was water at the bottom, and if there was, the lifesavers would come up dissolved. But they came up dry. Mel had more spools of fishing line, each one 5,000 feet. He attached another spool, now down almost 10,000 feet, and still no bottom. Spool after spool of fishing line went down the hole. He could not reach the bottom. By the time Mel ran out of line, he was 80,000 feet down, over 15 miles, and still no bottom. While experimenting, Mel noticed that his dogs wouldn't come anywhere near the hole. Even when forced, the dogs would dig their feet in. There were no animals of any kind near the hole. No wildlife, no insects. Birds even flew around it. And since the hole was known to his neighbors, Mel asked around if anyone noticed their dogs feeling uneasy by the hole, and they all said yes. And one of his neighbors said,
He keeps saying hole.
Dogs. Not too long ago, his dog died, so he
Like
threw
over
its
and
body
over, he
into
says
the
hole.
A few
Into the
days
hole.
later, that dog came back.
Somebody count the number of holes, he says. That's a lot of holes.
After Mel's neighbor threw his dead dog into the hole,
Why? Why?
I don't know.
You can't bury it.
I really don't know.
Sometimes humans are very disappointing.
They certainly can be. Anyway, a couple of days after disposing of his dog's body down the hole, he saw it running through a wooded area near the property. Now, he knew it was his dog because it was wearing the same collar, but for some reason, the dog didn't come when he called. The dog acted like he didn't know his owner at all.
The dog didn't come. The dog was in the hole. It didn't come.
Well, that's definitely a theory. And as the weird stories piled up and the fishing line kept going down, Mel was at a loss. He was
Out of his depth?
right. Mel needed help figuring out exactly what this hole was. And in 1997, there's only one place to discuss the strange and mysterious and be taken seriously. Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell.
From the high desert in the great American Southwest, I bid you all good evening or good morning, wherever you may be across this great land of ours.
Coast to Coast was on hundreds of stations around the world and had 10 million listeners. If anyone could help Mel, it was Art Bell and his audience. Mel sent Art a message on February 21st, 1997. Art called him, and Mel's hole became known to the world. Over the course of several shows, Mel Waters would reveal more and more details about the mysterious hole. The good news is Mel was getting really good advice from people all around the world, like use a laser to measure or use radar to check the distance. The bad news is now millions of people knew about this hole, and from clues given by Mel on the radio, you can get a pretty good idea of where it was. The day after the first broadcast, Mel was returning to his property, but the entrance was blocked.
The government.
Yep. The U.S. military was now aware of the hole, and they wanted it, all to themselves.
the show on Friday night. I went out there and noticed there was some helicopter activity around the property. There was further helicopter activity the next day. And so I figured that clearly somebody out there listens to your program.
Oh, yes.
Mel said that the hole could affect things in the environment around it. Animals avoided it, but plants seemed to grow extremely well. Radios acted weird. If Mel brought a radio near the hole, the signal would get very staticky and then start picking up broadcasts from somewhere else. One day his radio started picking up what he describes as old-time music.
Got that old-time music going,
So he goes to change the channel and tunes into a baseball game.
Point behind the St. Louis first baseman. Went on second, 2 outs.
This is fine until he learns the game was played in 1967, 30 years ago. Art's first call with Mel goes on for about an hour and then they wrap up. Mel was staying in Ellensburg for a couple of days and hadn't made the call from there. When Mel Waters returned from town, the access road to his property was blocked by armed military personnel, and there was evidence that heavy machinery had been brought in. Mel was told there was a plane crash on the property, but there was no report of a crash, no fire, no smoke. Still, Mel was told he couldn't access the property until the crash was completely investigated. When Mel asked to speak to the person in charge, a man in civilian clothes told him that the land was not necessarily his anymore, and it would be very easy to find a drug lab on the property if he didn't leave. Mel threatened to go to the press. The man in charge, the man in black, told him, go ahead and talk. Nobody would believe it, but Art Bell and his audience would believe it. And a few days later, Art called Mel for an update. Mel said that a neighbor saw a dark beam coming out of the hole and up through the clouds, darker than anything he'd ever seen. Now, Mel admitted he didn't see this himself, but Art Bell and several callers said that this part of Washington has a lot of UFO sightings, disappearances, and other paranormal activity. Callers had their own theories. Maybe the hole was sitting on a ley line and there was a portal to another dimension. Or it was a portal through time, and that's why everything thrown into it disappeared. Maybe somewhere in an alternate reality, there's a big pile of garbage, old appliances, and dead animals just piling up. Who knows? One caller thought this could be a tunnel to the hollow earth.
Ooh, like a subway for lizard people.
Subway for lizard people.
There were a lot of theories.
Oh,
Since Mel couldn't access his property anymore, he talked to other locals trying to get more information. An elderly neighbor said that many years ago, there was a series of stone columns around the hole.
Like Stonehenge?
Right, but without the cross beams, which are called lintels.
Lentils?
Lintels.
What'd I say?
Someone from the audience reminded Mel that calling into the show is a big mistake because obviously the government is listening. So the show ends and Mel agrees to come back for an update. On the day Mel is scheduled to reappear, he's a no-show and not picking up his phone.
Maybe my audience is not aware, but a television crew went up to Ellensburg after we did the last program and researched this. And I'll be doggone, they didn't find the hole, but they did find near the area where you were talking about a lot of military blueprints and all kinds of information that would indicate the military, in fact, had been there or was there. Oh, they would have probably seen a lot of yellow gear tread marks in the ground. Yep.
It would be 3 years before Mel resurfaces. He said he was offered $3 million a year to lease his property to somebody. But the deal was sign a non-disclosure agreement, leave the country immediately, and never come back. So Mel takes the deal, and he lives in Australia for 2 years. But he's missing his family and decides to come back to the States for a visit.
Not smart.
It wasn't. Mel was warned not to do this, but he does it anyway. And during this time, he gets in touch with Art Bell and agrees to come on the radio. But he never shows up. Mel said on the day
He keeps saying hole and come.
He was on a bus to visit his nephew. And on the bus there was
That's all I
some kind
keep-
of altercation
that's all I keep
and the
catching.
police were called. All the passengers are questioned and put on a different bus. Then Mel blacks out. And the next thing he remembers is that he's in San Francisco and 12 days have passed. Mel woke up in an alley. His wallet and keys were missing. He He realizes his arm hurts. He rolls up his sleeve, and there are needle holes and tape marks from an IV.
No.
And as he becomes more
That's
lucid,
a little far-fetched.
he tastes blood in his mouth. His back teeth are missing.
Whoa.
Mel never makes it back to the property. There was legal action taken against him for illegal construction. Power lines, septic tanks, paved roads. Of course, he didn't build these. The government had occupied the property for 2 years. Still, Mel lost everything. And a day or two after calling into Art's show, his bank account was empty. Now, to be fair, plenty of people are calling in saying that this is all a hoax. But Art Bell is the master.
Stop.
Hoax or not,
Being
it's a
annoying.
great story, so he lets Mel continue. But Art does say that a TV crew was in the area looking for the hole. They didn't find it, but they did find evidence of a lot of military activity. And the no-fly zone has been mysteriously expanded to cover the area. In fact, TerraServer, which was a mapping site before Google Earth, showed that the whole area was blacked out. And this was confirmed. Skeptical callers said that Mel could have found the blacked out part of the map and pretended his property was there. The problem with that is, TerraServer launched 6 months after Mel made the first phone call. He couldn't have known. Soon we learned that a Native American tribe had contacted Mel and asked him if he wanted to come to Nevada and help them research.
Research what?
Another bottomless hole.
Another bottomless hole. Ugh.
They took you to it. They took me there. I did not go all the way up to the hole, but there was conversations between the Native Americans and the Basque and blah blah blah. And they basically agreed that everything was as it should be. That I wasn't from CNN or the FBI or the CIA or whatever. And so I went there and I got to see the hole. Now, what's there?
The second hole wasn't located on the Indian reservation where they lived. It was actually on public land that was used by Basques. The Basques are an ethnic group that comes from a small region between France and Spain. The Basques settled a couple of areas in the United States, including Nevada, in the mid-1800s. And they were using this land to herd sheep. They told Mel that the hole was there for as long as their people were, so at least 200 years. And they consider the hole and the land around it sacred. This hole was just over 9 feet wide, just like Mel's. But where Mel's hole had a stone retaining wall of a few feet, the second hole had a metal collar and metal lining down as far as the eye could see. And this hole was warm to the touch. You could feel heat all around it. And the metal wouldn't make any sound or vibrate at all. Mel accidentally dropped a tool on the metal collar, and the impact was completely silent. So Mel and the Basque begin their experiments. The first test was they lowered a bucket of ice down into the hole about 1,000 feet, and they kept some ice at the surface as a control. When the surface ice was melted, they brought the bucket back up. That ice didn't melt at all. And even stranger, the ice was no longer cold to the touch, and it wasn't wet. The ice felt like large pieces of salt. So they tried to melt the ice over an open flame.
It didn't melt, did it?
Nope, it caught fire. Not only that, it continued to burn for months, so they continued sending different amounts of ice down the hole. About 2/3 of the time it melted
Put it down the
normally,
hole.
but 1/3 of the time
Put
it
it
was
down the
transformed.
hole.
Now at this point, one of the braver Basque volunteered to go down the hole himself.
What? Is he nuts?
Yeah,
Everything's gonna go
everyone
down the
agrees
hole.
that's not a good idea. So they decided to send down a sheep.
A sheep? Oh, what happened to the sheep? Oh no!
Well, I just felt I was in the presence of something extraordinary, something beyond extraordinary, something
Poor
like
sheep.
in that category of having a religious thing. This was just such a stunning thing to witness.
The sheep did not want to go in the hole. The closer it got, the more it tried to kick its way out of its crate.
I'm
They
sure.
lowered the crate down the hole to 1,000 feet. At that point, it stopped moving. They felt a humming sensation. They left the sheep down there for 30 minutes and then brought it back up. There was no movement. The crate was unchanged and the sheep looked fine, but it was dead. The Basque, being shepherds, knew how to butcher a sheep, so they brought it to a table for a quick autopsy.
Oh, for crying out loud, what are they doing?
The first thing that they noticed is that the sheep looked like it was cooked from the inside. And taking up almost the entire cavity of the sheep's body was what Mel described as a giant tumor.
Ugh.
Then the tumor starts moving.
What in the is going on with the story?
Oh!
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is intense.
Then they cut the tumor open.
No!
Inside the tumor is what Mel describes as a fetal seal.
Wait. Did you just say a fetal seal?
Yeah, like a baby seal. It was attached to the tumor by an umbilical cord. But this seal-like creature had the eyes of a human. They watched the creature for a while as it crawled to the end of the table. And Mel felt like it wanted to get back to the hole, so he picked it up and set it near the edge. Of course, the creature was slimy, and Mel said that the fluid had the smell of ozone. So the men studied the creature, and it seemed to study the men for about 2 hours. Then the seal creature gave them a final look and jumped in the hole. Now, before Mel went to Nevada, he was diagnosed with advanced esophageal cancer. He had only 6 months to live. But after this experience, Mel was cancer-free. He thinks he was cured by the
magic seal.
Yep. Mel felt like he had a transcendent experience. He was completely changed after this. And just then, the radio show runs out of time.
No!
Across from me over here is the actual roadway into Mel's home. Don't go up that road. Up there a ways is a fence.
What?
But you get across that fence, you're in a deep bunch of trouble. It might be that you simply disappear, period.
A few months later, Mel returned to Coast. Something crazy happened with that bucket of ice. Remember one of the Basques took the burning ice to his cabin to keep warm? He had it in a stove. It burned for months, and it was pulling all the moisture out of the air. The air in the cabin was always dry. The owner's skin was always dry. He was constantly thirsty. When boiling water, the steam would be pulled into the stove. One day, the stove crashed through the floor and into the ground under the cabin. But it was still warm, so he patched up the floor and used the hole for warmth. A couple of weeks later, he's returning home and his entire cabin has collapsed and turned to dust. He moves in with his brother for a while. A month later, he comes back to the cabin and sees that the stove is now 5 feet underground, and the hole made by the stove was perfectly smooth.
It was making a new baby bottomless hole.
It was, and they couldn't get the stove back up. It took a giant crane to finally get the stove out of the hole. And at this point, the Basque said they were sometimes visited by the entity that they discovered in the hole.
The magic seal?
Yes, the magic seal. They felt it was a benevolent presence and considered the whole experience to be very spiritual. There are now brightly colored birds circling the hole. Birds that seem to be immune to bullets.
That's how they respond to a spiritual experience. Shoot the birds?
I guess.
Freaking Basque.
The Basque even believe the magic seal is communicating with them over the radio using a system of beeps and clicks as language which they can understand. The creature warns the Basque that the ice is dangerous and can't fall into the wrong hands and would lead to the destruction of the planet. Art asks if there's a recording of this language. There is. The Basque recorded everything. For the next hour, a few more theories are considered, and Art finally gets Mel to agree to come back on the show. But this time, he would bring the recording, photos, video, and everything he can get his hands on. Mel agrees to go back to Nevada and gather all the evidence. He hangs up, and the show ends. Mel is never heard from again. He doesn't respond to Art's calls, and eventually the line is disconnected. So after 5 years, the story of Mel's hole finally comes to an end. But it left so many questions.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of Art Bell highlights, and Mel's hole is right near the top. So how much of the story can we confirm? First, the location of the hole. Terra Server did black out that part of Washington, but on Google Earth it showed back up. But if the military really had taken over the property, they would have covered up the hole. People have been searching for it for years. And of the many locations I found, there was one that was really compelling. This is the Google map. Someone actually went to the location to see what was there. These are the pictures. During one of his phone calls, Mel said there were 2 old buildings on the property, and one of them eventually collapsed under snow. This fits the description pretty well. And also on the property is this. Yep, a hole about 9 feet wide with a stone retaining wall, exactly how Mel described. Now this caused quite a stir online, but the hole turned out to be an old well and definitely had a bottom. If you search the internet, you'll find a lot of people claiming they found Mel's hole. They haven't. It's never been found. At least, not yet. As for Mel, he's a complicated character. There's no record of a Mel or Melvin Waters living in the area, but some have claimed he was using a pseudonym to protect his identity. That makes sense? Now, something that really hurts the credibility of the story is the lack of pictures. In every call, Art asks for photographs, but sometimes Mel just doesn't think to take a picture. He forgets, which is ridiculous. Another time he says cameras don't work near the hole because of interference. Or he does have pictures and recordings, but they're not handy, so he'll send them when he can. But in Mel's defense, he never plugs anything. Even if this is a hoax, he could have made a fortune selling t-shirts, books, phony photographs, anything. People would buy that stuff just because it's cool. I would buy a Mel's Hole t-shirt.
I went to Mel's Hole, and all I got was this magic seal fetus.
Yeah, that part of the story was pretty wild. And that's a common argument, that Mel's story got crazier and crazier, and eventually he just couldn't keep up with it, so he bailed on the hoax. But he was pretty consistent with the facts over 5 years. And Art Bell tried many, many times to trip him up, but he couldn't do it. Now, the hole itself just isn't geologically possible. A hole many miles deep would be unstable and collapse in on itself.
Unless it was a bottomless hole to another dimension.
Right, unless it's that. But I don't think we'll ever know. Mel's Hole has many believers, but I don't think Art Bell was one of them. But Art was an entertainer, and this is the type of story that his listeners loved. It's a legend that people still talk about 30 years later. But for me in this channel, this was a masterclass on how to present an urban legend. Let the story breathe, but still challenge the specifics. Explore the mystery, but keep it grounded. Be critical, but compassionate. I try to approach topics this way. But very few others do. A channel that tells mysterious stories without giving all the facts will get more clicks, and it will get more subscribers. But that's a shame, because it's dishonest, and you deserve better. We all do. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. My name is AJ, that's Hecklefish. This has been the Y-Files. If you had fun or learned anything, do me a favor and like, subscribe, comment, and share. Today's story was a request from you. And if you'd like to suggest a video, go to theYFiles.com/tips. Special thanks to our generous patrons.
Hey, how you doing, Tampa guy?
If you'd like to support the Y-Files, consider becoming a member on
How's it
Patreon
going?
or picking up a
Hecklefish for President t-shirt.
Right. There are links below. That's going to do it.
Oh,
But until
weird.
next time, be safe, be kind, and know that you are appreciated.
Oh, excuse me. I don't see you on here. How's it going? You gonna fuck with me about Russell Brand? Really? It is too.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the weekly VR news, where I break down everything going on in the VR industry, prepare you for the Hello everybody and welcome back to the weekly VR news, where I break down everything going on in the VR industry, prepare you for this week's upcoming game releases, and then focus in on a few major stories. Today, we definitely have some bad news to get through, like Echo VR VR shutting down, Onward dropping support for the Quest 1, and some production changes for VR hardware. It's not all bad news though, and there's still plenty to be excited for. Now there are of course links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead, but before we jump in, this video is brought to you by my sponsor, Kiwi Design. They currently make my favorite Quest 2 Elite strap, which comes in multiple different versions. You can add an extra battery pack, high quality headphones, or even both. They also have other products like Valve Index style hand straps, and they just introduced a brand new RGB stand. Your controllers and headset magnetically connect. There's a charging indicator so you'll know when your headset's ready to go, and there's plenty of different RGB color options available. There's a link to Kiwi Design down in the description, and don't forget to use discount code Mateo311 for 5% off and to help support this channel. Okay, so starting off with new releases like usual, there's some interesting games to look forward to this week. First up is A Night in the Attic, and this is a puzzle-solving VR adventure title. You'll be rolling Guinevere across multiple levels and tilting through obstacles on your way to the amazing author. It's a whole new take on the world of Camelot, and the adventure extends beyond the game board itself and into your very own mysterious attic. But if that's not enough action for you, we have Barbaria. Barbaria is a combination of Gorn-like combat, where you also get to build your own realm, fill it with traps and minions, and then battle your way to becoming the strongest champion in all of the realms.
So don't come in my fucking private messages trying to tell me what to do.
Impressed. The combat's a lot of fun. There's a surprisingly high amount of strategy. And the items you unlock truly feel rewarding. Now I might be doing a full review of this game, so let me know if you want one down in the comments right now. And our next title up is Per Aspera. Per Aspera is city building on a planetary scale as you attempt to terraform the Red Planet. You'll have to strategically balance resources and develop new technologies in order to create a thriving interplanetary civilization. It's not all base building though, because you'll have to defend your civilization from a mysterious presence that's living on Mars. So if you're looking for a new city builder or something to scratch the strategy itch, Per Aspera might be exactly what you're looking for. Now this is also a good week for Pico owners, as the 1v1 shooter Blast On is now available for both the Pico 3 and Pico 4 headsets. And I highly recommend you check out the game because it's excellent. There's plenty of unlockable weapons, combat is extremely strategic and highly competitive, and it will also give you a bit of a workout. Now there's also a handful of new games that just came to the Pico store, many of which I'm having trouble finding information on, so I'll just list them out and add any details that I may have. First up is Obaki Doro, followed by Madame Pirate, which appears to be an interactive storyline. There's Cybrex, which is a breakout clone, Enhanced VR, a series of mini-games designed to increase your reflexes and cognitive abilities. And finally we have Kung Fu Beat and Power Punch. So if you're a Pico 4 or Pico 3 owner, you might want to go check out these games. Now that's it for new releases, but there are plenty of additional game stories to go over. And let's start with a $1,000 cash tournament for the upcoming PvP title, Stack. Stack is currently in development from Joyway, the studio that's currently working on Stride, and gave us some other really cool games like Against. Well, their newest title, Stack, that's currently in development, is having its first official tournament to help promote the game. You'll be competing in 2v2 modes, the prize pool is $1,000, and it looks like some content creators are joining in on the action. Now, if you're interested, you have to register by February 14th, and I will include a link down in the description. Now, unfortunately, though, we're going to start moving into some bad news, and first up is Onward dropping Quest 1 support. Starting on July 31st, Onward will not be playable in any capacity on the Quest 1. Now, while this is sad news, it's not much of a surprise. Meta is currently in the process of phasing out the Quest 1 altogether, and other studios have already dropped Quest 1 support. This was required for Big Box Studio to add sandbox mode onto Population 1, but I was told only a small percentage of players were actually using the original Quest, and I expect the same to be true for Onward. I personally thought the game was pretty terrible on the original Quest, and can't imagine too many people are still playing it. Now, unlike Big Box, who needed to drop Quest 1 support to expand the capabilities of their title, I don't think that's what Onward is currently doing. I think this is more for efficiency, allowing them to not have to test updates on a platform that no one's really utilizing anymore. Mark Zuckerberg also let it slip a while back that Onward 2 is in production, so I expect a lot of the team is currently focusing on that. Now, in other game support dropping news, it came as quite a shock to hear that Echo VR is shutting down. The extremely popular competitive online title that played like a combination of Rocket League and rugby was by all accounts performing quite well. Now, expectedly, there was a pretty harsh reaction from the community, and a lot of people were left scratching their heads wondering why this is actually happening. Even Andrew Bosworth, Meta's current CTO, and John Carmack, Meta's previous consulting CTO, chimed in on the closure of this title. Now, Boz stated that ultimately this was his decision, basically accepting all the blame, but the discussion went much further, and there was even the tale of two Carmacks. Now, this is basically both how John Carmack would be for and against the shutdown of this title. On one hand, John absolutely loves efficiency, so it sounds like Echo VR was requiring more and more work and making less and less profit. But at the same time, John sees games similar to Oddwork and feels like they should live on forever. But I think there's one other aspect that no one everyone seems to be discussing. I don't believe developers ready at dawn ever aim to make an online service title. They absolutely love and excel at single-player story-driven titles, which is clearly evident from Lone Echo 1 and 2. We know they're working on a brand new title, which I assume will follow the same creative direction, and I expect that endeavor to be extra hard, while you still have to put a lot of attention into an online service. This would split the team between passion and obligation. Now the common response to this is, why doesn't Meta just hire some new people to handle Echo VR? Well, the previous discussion on efficiency makes it appear that this title is currently on a decline, and it would take a lot of time.
Your phone?
Alright, awesome. I saw that. What's up? Yeah. Hello. Welcome to Bodger's Blacksmith. How can I help?
I'm here for the quest.
What quest?
The quest?
Oh, goodness. Oh, yeah, right, the quest. Can you, brave adventurer, please find for me 57 yellow flowers in Schmagenrock.
Sorry, what's this?
Oh, can you find for me 57 yellow flowers from Schmagenrock? And you better hurry, because that's quite the journey. See ya.
No. Sorry, what is all this? Is this how you make up your quests?
I'll have you know that my quests are very important tasks that need doing, and that was one of them.
Really? Because that all seemed very random.
Well, it's not.
God damn it. Is this procedurally generated content? Have I hit the filler quests already?
Well, I haven't run out of quests, if that's what you're implying.
Well, that was all very clearly just made up.
All quests are, made up when you think about it.
Do you realize what a thoroughly unrewarding experience this is for me as a player?
Look, fine. If you're not happy with that quest, I do have another quest, if you would like it.
Okay.
Great, right. Well, could you please kill
28 grandfather's hammers This is different.
See, that one doesn't even make any sense.
Yes, it does.
Kill 28 grandfather's hammers. Did you have 28 grandfathers? Or did your grandfather have 28 hammers? How do I kill a hammer?
I assure you, this quest is filled with steeped in law.
Really? Okay, explain. What's the story? What's the law? Go on.
Don't you know?
No.
Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's by doing the quest.
I am so sick of procedurally generated bullshit. So lazy. The developers know how salty it is that we're going to enjoy this garbage.
Fine. Do not have with those quests. I do have one other very secret and very important quest. Would you like it?
Okay, I mean, that sounds promising. As long as it actually has substance, like, did someone spend time creating a compelling narrative arc to it?
All of those things and more, Marty.
Great. Could you please? Find me 40 dragons of Schmagenrock from Albuquerque. It's of the utmost importance. Seriously? Seriously. I mean, this is unbelievable.
Do you want the quest or not? If you're not interested, you don't have to keep playing the game. Do you want it?
Fine, give me the quest.
Thank you, adventurer.
Please return with great haste.
How do I retrieve a dragon?
The world thanks you, hero.
Hello, adventurer. Would you please subscribe?
Hit the bell.
digital passport, CBDC, social credit score. Mandatory digital passport, CBDC, social credit score. The future that all of us are craving, according to the global elite and WEF attendees. Now, we're the perfect place in the world to test out all of these new controversial globalist tools under the guise of humanitarianism and test some weapons to boot. Let me hear your first guess. It's Ukraine. Thanks for helping them. Hello there, you 6 million awakening wonders. Thanks for joining me on this voyage for truth and freedom. Let us cultivate the inner light so we will not be slaves to their narrative. We're trying to talk about what's going on in Ukraine. Against a corrupt dictator in Putin to prevent the criminal invasion of Ukraine. The things that are definitely true is Ukrainian people must be supported and prevented from suffering in a dreadful and unnecessary war. But without going any further, let's reiterate the mainstream media globalist narrative. This is a humanitarian conflict to help and protect Ukraine, and there's absolutely no way that this is a proxy war where the military-industrial complex gets to test out new weapons. How Ukraine became a test bed for Western weapons and battlefield innovation. Okay, that seems to suggest it is, but that's just a one-off. For Western weapons, the Ukraine war is a beta test, okay, a two-off. But there definitely are no biolabs over there. Oh, that's just a clickbaity headline. It's not as if anyone in government is actually admitted it. Someone that's worked for successive administrations for the deep state over 20 or 30 years. Does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian troops may be seeking to gain control of.
But there's absolutely no evidence to suggest that Ukraine is not only going to be privatised subsequent to the war by companies like BlackRock, JP Morgan, etc. You've heard Zelensky's list, right? BlackRock, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs. It will not be used as a place to pilot digital IDs, CBDCs, a mass surveillance society such as they're trying to impose on all of us. At least we can relax and not worry about that, or can we? During the WEF annual meeting in Davos, Switzerland, Ukraine's Vice Prime Minister Mikhailo Fedorov said he wants the country to be the best jurisdiction for crypto assets and plans to receive his salary in Ukraine's central bank digital currency, CBDC, the e-hryvnia. What we're suggesting to you now is not only is Ukraine being used as a testing ground for weapons,
Google Chrome, get your lights. Hey Google, turn the kitchen lights on.
Just last year, the BlackRock CEO said he believes the Russian Ukraine could be used to accelerate the adoption of digital money controlled by central banks. Some of the things of what we're doing is incredibly controversial. Ukraine exploited in order to advance Berlin's interests, and the police, I believe, was exacerbated in order to create a conflict that would legitimise all of these actions they were taking. Don't let anybody find out how actually, to their credit, I suppose, proved out there.
The Ukrainian government is still more like an IT company in terms of the efficiency of implementing decisions. Ukraine is the freest in digital. This is all because international partners and leading technology companies supported the Digital for Freedom initiative.
Need some coffee, you rotters.
This week, Lego. Here we go. Hi, I'm Roger.
Are you the doctor?
Technically. It says here you've got an earache.
Yeah, my ear is just big.
It's okay. It's all going to be okay. We'll take good care of you.
Give me a wallet.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, I see you have Horton's unrivaled recuperation treatment insurance. The insurance goblin will be pleased.
The insurance goblin? Okay, what the hell is happening?
Just feeding the insurance goblin so he doesn't get too cranky.
But I just paid you, and I'm all paid up on my insurance premiums. Why are you giving that thing more money?
Well, you were just paying me against your deductible. A healthy insurance goblin needs a balanced, complete diet. Not just of premiums, but also co-payments, co-insurance, out-of-pocket minimums, and other made-up terms he invented.
insurance.
Orton's unrivaled recuperation treatment insurance negotiates with hospitals for lower rates. Without insurance, you couldn't even afford to look at a hospital. Looks like a simple infection. We can treat it easily with a round of antibiotics. Okay, actually, your ear is completely fine.
What just happened?
The insurance goblin says you don't need antibiotics, so it refuses to cover them.
Does the goblin have any medical training?
Not in a strictly legal or real sense, but it did outsource this decision to some med techs. Reviewed your diagnosis for an entire few seconds before going against the recommendation of a trained doctor who actually spent time in the same room with you.
That sounds bad.
Well, would it make you feel better knowing that for sufferers of rheumatoid arthritis, insurance coverage requests for medication are denied so often, 78% of physicians say patients abandon their recommended treatment altogether because they can't or don't want to pay out of pocket.
No, that doesn't make me feel better.
This might help then. While insurance won't cover the antibiotics, it will cover the Aerotron 69,000 Mega Turbo Edition. Yeah, this baby set the hospital back $50 million and costs $10,000 per use. Also, every time we fire it up, it fills a canvas somewhere.
Okay, but how is that covered by my insurance, but a simple round of antibiotics isn't?
Look, I'm gonna level with you. This doesn't really cost $10,000 per use. We just made that number up so we could tell the insurance goblin that it's getting a huge discount when we only charge it $5,000.
What? You just said insurance covers this.
Sure does. It's getting a heck of a deal on it. But while most of this hospital is in your insurance network, the person who handles the raid isn't. See, about 16% of all hospital visits in the U.S. result in a surprise medical bill.
But that guy was here for like 2 seconds. How much did that cost?
Remember what I said about making prices up? We do that for pretty much everything. In most countries, the price of a hospital visit includes basic services like staffing, alcohol swabs, or stitches. But here, we nickel and dime and $1,000 you at every opportunity. We inflate our prices to ridiculous levels, then cut hundreds of side deals with insurance companies, meaning there are usually dozens of different prices for an identical service. A blood draw can cost over $1,300. A single food bag has been $137, and a codeine pill that goes for like 50 cents at Walgreens will cost $20. None of these prices are made up, by the way. I mean, they are made up, but they're also real prices that real patients have charged in real U.S. hospitals.
How is the government allowing this? Why aren't they doing anything to stop this?
You know, there's actually an interesting story behind this. In order to free up more money for the war effort during World War II, the National War Labor Board instituted a national police on employee wages. So instead, companies attracted new talent with better, technically exempt medical insurance plans, creating a massive industry that lobbies and influences government policy. In most developed countries, the government determines the prices of drugs and healthcare, like in Canada and the UK, or negotiates them on the taxpayers' behalf, like in Germany and Japan. But U.S. health insurers have cut the government out of the process entirely by arguing that if the government controls health insurance, how long before they control all other industries and federally mandate all ice cream has to include broccoli, and that all wake socks will be made from that scratchy Christmas sweater roll.
Wow, that was actually pretty informative.
Communism. Communism.
So, medical insurance is basically like buying an expensive membership to a pizza place. But once inside, I still have to pay separately for the dough, sauce, cheese, and toppings, making sure I'm always checking each specific topping in my plan. Otherwise, I may end up in crippling debt or dead from lack of
chocolate pie, let's get Bob the trash can outside the diarrhea factor. The U.S. taxpayer spends roughly twice as much on health care, but life expectancy is much lower than in places like the UK, France, or Switzerland. In fact, you're already dead. Time of death, 11:42. Cost of taking the pulse, let's say $4,000, but only $2,000 for you, buddy. I'm Roger, by the way. Oh, I'll email you the bill for this consultation.
The idea of metaverse has been a staple of science fiction for decades, but in recent years it has become a reality.
The metaverse refers to a virtual world or a virtual universe where people can interact with each other and experience a range of activities in a computer-generated environment. This interconnected world is envisioned to be a place where people can live, work, and play in a completely digital place, creating a new dimension of reality that blurs the lines between what is real and what is virtual. The development of the metaverse is being driven by advancements in virtual reality, VR, and augmented reality, AR technologies, as well as increasing popularity of the blockchain technology. So VR and AR technologies are allowing people to experience and interact with virtual environments in new and exciting ways. But blockchain technology is enabling the creation of virtual assets and currencies that have real-world value. So these technological advancements, combined with increasing demand of virtual experiences, are setting the stage for growth of metaverse. I want to explain what each of these technologies mean, but if you are pro already and know this, you can skip to the next section. So, VR, virtual reality. It is a computer-generated simulation of a three-dimensional environment that can be explored and interacted with by a person. The user, immersed in a virtual environment through this headset, can participate in different types of activities like VR games, education, training, sports. It is a rapidly evolving industry to provide people a more immersive experience. This is one way to be in the metaverse through VR, where you can experience the virtual world, interact with others, and build your own environments. AR, however, the augmented reality, is a technology that blends the physical world with the digital world. It does it by adding digital information to a person's view of the real world. So these glasses are AR glasses. So when I wear those, I see the world the way it is. However, it also adds layers of mixed reality. So for example, I can see a dragon in front of me in my room right now. However, there's no dragon here. So Amazon uses this technology to showcase, for example, your furniture in your house before you buy it. And a lot of different companies do that. So AR can be implemented in smart glasses like that, or in your tablets, in your iPhones, and it can be used for a variety of different industries. For example, it's used in gaming to create immersive experiences, in education to make learning more interactive and engaging, in interior design to visualize the design of your room, in healthcare to assist with medical procedures. It's also used in advertising and marketing to create interactive brand experiences and to provide customers with product information in real time. Last but not least, the blockchain. Blockchain is a decentralized digital ledger that records all the transactions across a network of computers. It uses code to secure and verify transactions, as well as to control the creation of new units, we call them blocks, of a particular cryptocurrency. Each block in the chain contains a cryptographic hash of the previous block, a timestamp, and a transaction data. So this creates an immutable, transparent, and tamper-evident record of all transactions on the network, allowing for trustless collaboration and verification. Blockchain technology has the potential application in various industries, including finance, supply chain management, and even voting in metaverse. So, in the metaverse, users can own, trade virtual assets such as property, clothing, digital collectibles, NFTs, as well as participate in various activities like gaming, socializing. So, the use of blockchain technology provides a secure and decentralized way to manage ownership and transfer of virtual assets that also creates new economic opportunities in the virtual world. That is why it is so important to understand this new economy, new reality that we live in right now. I see the world when walking down the street, I'll come across people looking like robots or dragons or anything they want, because it will be their identity in metaverse. So we'll be able to make transactions and buy any digital assets, skins, whatever, just by walking down the street. Smartphones and computers will go away. Eventually, what we'll have are these AR glasses, which Apple is going to launch, by the way, probably next year. And then we'll have probably the contact lenses or the brain chip, but let's not even go there. It's important to understand what the metaverse is because it is coming, and also it's important to invest in it. So that's why I want to talk about my metaverse company, Vimeverse. At Vimeverse, we're helping other businesses to onboard in metaverse, and we design any VR or AR application that you might need for your business. We're also creating our own metaverse, which we're going to launch in November 2025. Our approach is different from many other major tech companies. We really care about teaching people about metaverse, and we also care about privacy and data. It is something I'm fundamentally strict about because I had bad experiences with my personal data being exposed, and a lot of my friends and acquaintances did too. So for me, the format of advertising in our metaverse is going to be fundamentally different from all the other companies. I'm not going to disclose how, because this is some information that is confidential, but if you would like to become an investor at Vimeverse or ask us some questions, send us an email at info@visionmmedia.com. Back to the metaverse. The metaverse represents a new form of human expression where we can create and explore new worlds, cultures, and identities in ways that we were only once imagining in science fiction. So the potential for new forms of human expression and creativity are immense, and I'm eager to see how the metaverse will continue to evolve and shape our culture in the years to come. Are you? Share your thoughts in the comment section, and please subscribe if you enjoy my content. Take care. @VinceVisionM.
Good.
We shoot on 3. 1. I've been playing cards a long time, and I would never have bet on that start. Where'd you learn to shoot? Your wife? Oh, snap. Oh, great. Look, before you kill me, just grant me a few last words, alright? That's a click. Let Anna live. Alright? Let her live. This is not her fault. I kissed her, she didn't kiss me, alright? It's not her fault. I mean, she didn't tell me she was married, so it's a little bit her fault, I guess. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of true. So, maybe just shoot her in the arm? And one more thing, my grandparents were Arabic, so I'm required by Muslim tradition to recite the Islamic death chant immediately before dying. This will only take a moment. What's the matter, Clinch? You not feeling well?
You okay, boss?
What's happening tonight? You know, there are a million ways to die in the West, Clinch. There's famine, disease, gunfights, and wild animals. You know, like snakes. And you know, the funny thing is, you don't even have to get bitten. All you need is a little bit of the venom introduced into your bloodstream, and you're pretty much screwed. For example, if you drain a certain amount of venom from the fangs of a diamondback rattler into a hollow-tip bullet, you really only need one shot. Now, I knew my aim wasn't good enough to hit you anywhere important, but if I caught you by surprise, well, Anna taught me just enough to get me in the ballpark. And just a small amount of venom in an open wound is enough to kill a man if he's...
Albert! He's dead. You did it.
Oh.
Albert, I know everything seems hopeless right now, but I promise you there's so much to live for.
Really? Is there? What is there to live for on the frontier in 1882? Huh? But, let me tell you something. We live in a terrible place in time. The American
Hey Google,
West
turn off the
is a
kitchen
disgusting,
lights.
awful, dirty, dangerous place. Look around you.
Everything out here that's not you wants to kill you. Outlaws, angry drunk people, scorned hookers, hungry animals, diseases, major and minor injuries, Indians, the weather. You can get killed just going to the bathroom. I take my life in my hands every time I walk out to my outhouse. There's rattlesnakes all in the grass out there. And even if I make it, you know what can kill me? Cholera. You know cholera? The black. The latest offering in the Frontiers Disease of the Month Club. And even if you survive all those things, you know what else can kill you? The doctor. The doctor can kill you. I had a cold a couple years ago. I went in there. You know what he said to me? He goes, "Oh, you need an ear nail." A nail in my ear. That is modern medicine for you. Yeah, doc, I have a fever of 102. Oh, you need a donkey kicking. You know our pastor has shot 2 people? Our pastor.
No.
Honest to God, shot a guy in a duel and then went back and killed the guy's teenage son because he was afraid he would kill him out of revenge.
Wait, how do you know that?
Because he did a whole sermon about it. A lesson about seeing things through. By the way, look at this. See those guys over there? The guys who work in the silver mines? See what they're eating? Ribs doused in hot sauce. They eat hot, spicy foods every meal of the day. You know why? Because their palates are so completely dulled from inhaling poison gas 12 hours a day down in the mines. That's all they can taste. You know what that kind of diet does to your guts? Constipation, cramps, dyspepsia, liver disease, kidney disease, hemorrhoids, bowel inflammation. They literally die from their own farts. And, you want to see more death? All we gotta do is get up and walk out the front door. That is our mayor. He is dead. He has been lying there dead for 3 days. No one has done a thing. Not moved him, not looked into his death, not even replaced him with a temporary appointee. For the last 3 days, the highest ranking official in our town has been a dead guy. Oh, look at that! Look at that! Wolves are dragging the body away as if to illustrate my point.
Hey, Google, turn the kitchen lights
Bye,
on.
Mr. Mayor. Bye. Have fun becoming wolf. Bye. God. That, my friends, is the American West. A disgusting, awful, dirty cesspool of despair, and all of it.
Why don't you shut up?
You shut up.
How much leatherwood? Great. Look, it's another thing that can kill us. We should all just wear coffins as clothes.
Somebody in this sweet town is going to die. One of my boys saw a man kissing my wife last night.
It
I
happens.
want to know who it was.
Your wife saw it.
Oh, you heard about that, Eyes? Yeah, so...
This footage shows the last public... Right, I'll stay here.
You mean you don't want to come in and fight the beast?
No, I'll stay here and maybe write some more songs about you or something.
Promise me you won't.
I can't promise that. What was that?
Black blood.
That's good shit.
What does black blood do?
Turns my blood into poison.
It turns your blood into poison.
That's right.
Follow-up question, what?
If the beast feeds on me, it'll die immediately.
How are you not dead?
I'm a witch.
What does that one do?
Kiss increases resistance to bleeding.
I think it's literally made your eyes bleed.
Full moon increases vitality.
Geralt,
What?
the veins on your face look like they're about to burst.
I'm fine.
Now, Geralt, you should sit up.
Feed me filter to increase my sign intensity.
Geralt, stop. Geralt, you don't even know what the monster is yet.
That's why I need to drink every potion.
No, Geralt, you've had enough.
I'll tell you when I've had enough.
Don't tell me when I've had enough. Don't you tell me when I've had enough.
don't you?
No. So you have no idea what's going on?
I don't know what's going on.
Whereas I have every idea what's going on. So I need to be prepared for every possible outcome.
Makes sense.
Do you understand?
I do. Good luck, Geralt.
Right, I just need to take one more potion.
Good.
It's gonna take one more. Just one more potion.
Good.
Geralt?
Geralt's not coming back from that one.
Hey guys, we are People in Jet League. Be sure to subscribe.
And if you want to see more of the things that we do, there are videos, I'm sure, somewhere.
Somewhere. Maybe over there.
Probably.
Yeah.
On March 16th, 1957, at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Good Monday morning, everyone. I'm Mystical, and today I'm going to be bringing you the latest in XR news. I do apologize if my voice sounds a little bit different throughout this video. I'm still a little...
Hey, I'm Kayla, and I'm one of the AI voices from Revoicer.
Good Monday morning, everyone. I'm Mystical, and today
Hey, I'm
Good Monday morning, everyone. I'm Mystical, and today I'm going to be bringing you the latest in XR news. I do apologize if my voice sounds a little bit different throughout this video. I'm still a little bit sick, so that might be a problem, but hopefully it's not too distracting. As in today's video, I don't even know what I'm going to call it. It's going to be a little bit all over the place, but we're going to begin as usual with the Quest news, as I do believe that that's what most of you came here for. So let's jump right into it. First of all, some bad news, I guess, for Quest 3, or potential Quest 3 buyers in the future, as the CTO shoots down face and eye tracking for non-pro headsets like the Quest 3. I mean, this was pretty obvious. We already knew this from the leaks, from the schematics, from things like that, but I guess there were still some people in the comments hoping for face and eye tracking on the Quest 3, as apparently without that, the Quest 3 wouldn't be a big enough upgrade. But come on, guys, I mean, the Quest 3 needs to be different than the Quest Pro in some way. I mean, clearly they're not going to finish on one Quest Pro. The Pro lineup is going to continue, and some features need to be removed. Yeah, we've got a single panel instead of two panels, but that wouldn't be enough. Andrew Bosworth said that the facial expression tracking technology in Quest Pro is still years away from making it into the more affordable line of Meta's VR headsets. In a recent Instagram AMA, a user asked Bosworth how long until we see facial expression technology in a non-business headset. Bosworth noted that Meta wants facial expression tracking to become more affordable for more people. However, Bosworth then stated that the extra cameras for that tracking are expensive, as is the processing power they require. This means that Meta executives don't see a path to getting that into more affordable headsets in the next year, 2 or 3 years. Well, that is kind of a shame. 2 or 3 years, that is quite a whiles away. Hopefully by then they do find a way to have that hardware in more affordable headsets, and if they don't, someone else will. And talking about Bosworth's AMA, we also have information for the Echo VR community. Now, I'm very behind on this, so I am going to gloss over it. Other people have already gone over this in more detail, but essentially Bosworth was asked multiple times during his AMAs about what is happening to Echo VR and things like that. Now, what most of us kind of got from the Bosworth AMAs is it was kind of his decision to shut down Echo VR, as apparently human resources or human capital should be used elsewhere, as it doesn't make sense to be used in Echo VR. And he also did make it very clear, what would John Carmack do? John Carmack would not have shut down Echo VR. So if we still had a gaming legend in Meta as the CTO, we would have still had Echo VR. And to quote from John Carmack himself, this is something he wrote to Upload VR. I reached out to Balls as soon as I heard about the end-of-life announcement for Echo. We have been over similar discussions in the past. I thought it was a mistake to not keep Oculus Rooms running and port to Quest. And I thought that it was a mistake to abandon all Gear VR/Go content when my emulation layer worked for at least a good chunk of things. I believe in saving everything. So I'm going to leave a link to this letter in case you guys want to read it down below. But the TLDR is drop to absolutely minimal support. Put a single developer in charge of maintaining it and doing what they can with the community. At ID Software, we had one guy managing Quake Live for a long time, and I think that was the right thing to do. This would almost certainly not earn out on a cost-benefit analysis for Echo, but a lot of people are spent on worse things, and despite me always harping about efficiency, I would consider it justified. Again, more people have created videos on this in more detail, but I'm still going to leave a link to the petition down below in case you guys are interested, but unfortunately unfortunately, it does seem like they are pretty set on shutting down Echo VR. Thrilled did a video yesterday where he mentioned that there is a saving grace. I'll leave a link to his video up here in case you still haven't seen it somehow. But yeah, there's still saving grace for Echo. Hopefully, the mod loader will be made open source.
No, we saw it. We saw it through Seekers.
Which means we should be able to do something about it.
Watch it again.
With that being said, let's move on to the next piece of news. Meta has finally optimized their developer tools for M-Series Macs. In case you guys don't know, the M-Series is what Apple has created as an alternative to x64 inside Macs, tablets, everything. They're now using basically a singular chip for everything, which is pretty cool, and I do give them props for that. Apparently, Meta's software wasn't optimized to run on that, but last week Meta released the latest version of Meta Quest Developer Hub, which has been optimized to work natively on Apple's M-Series chips for better performance. The Quest Developer Hub is a collection of tools to make VR development easier for Quest developers. Now, this is something that I actually use myself. Oculus Developer Hub, I tend to use, for example, starting ADB over Wi-Fi when SideQuest doesn't want to work for whatever reason for me. And I also use it to cast sometimes, as it uses a different way of casting to SideQuest. I also use it to disable the proximity sensor. There's a few really interesting things in there. So I do use the tool myself. I am quite familiar with it, and I find it interesting that it wasn't optimized with M-Series chips until now. But I mean, look, at least they got to it. It's a somewhat curious update, considering this is the only major change in MetaQuest Developer Hub v3.2, and considering that VR developers working on Mac OS seem to be a tiny minority compared to those on Windows. Well, I mean, they do exist, and it would be nice for those developers to be able to use their software correctly, wouldn't it? So, I find that to be an interesting update for you developers out there, and I know that we do have quite a few developers watching these videos, so much love to you guys. And you guys working on M-Series chips will now finally be optimized to do so correctly. Earlier on, we talked about if Meta doesn't make face and eye tracking more affordable for users, another company will. And as another company did previously, the Pico. The Pico 4 and 3 now have Blast On available for them. Resolution Games' one-on-one arcade shooter Blast On is now available on the Pico platform for the Pico 4 and the Pico 3 Link. Resolution confirmed that Blast On would be heading over to the Pico late last year, while also detailing an update with major revamps to the game, including a move to free-to-play model. Now, this was a big thing when it happened back in the past, because I bought Blast On, for example. I didn't mind them moving to a free-to-play model, but a lot of people did. And the reason I didn't mind it is because I think it's a great game, and I think the more people we have in it, the better. It's just a really fun little title that you can play with your friends. Essentially what happens is you stand over there, your friend stands over here, and you guys get to shoot at each other. Whoever shoots the most wins. Now, there's a lot of additional things to the game, a lot of additional mechanics and things like that. So I do recommend that you check it out if it sounds like something you might be interested in. And if you have a Pico Neo 3 Link or a Pico 4, you can now join in on the fun. The more titles that are available on the Pico, the easier the headset is going to be on people that buy it in the future. Currently, a lot of people buying those headsets are only buying them for the PC VR aspect, and that is actually mainly what I recommended them towards, but the more standalone games we have on them, the better. After all, they are also standalone headsets. Talking about games coming to other headsets, Pistol Whip promises a more realistic firing experience on the PSVR 2. Popular action rhythm game Pistol Whip arrives on the PSVR 2 this month, and Cloudhead Games recently outlined how it utilizes the new Sense controller. Now, I don't have my PS5 controller with me here right now, but in case you guys don't know, the PS5 controllers utilize haptic feedback on their triggers. Meaning, let's say you're firing a weapon, you can feel that in the trigger. The trigger moves accordingly. If you're driving a car, it can make the trigger harder to press, kind of like throttle. It's really, really cool, and that technology has made its way over to the PlayStation VR 2 new Sense controllers. The studio revealed more in a new PlayStation blog post that I will leave a link for you in case you want to check out the full thing down below, claiming the controllers create a more realistic firing experience through changing resistances and unique reload SFX for weapons. Now, there's a lot of haptics happening in the PSVR 2 headset. I myself haven't got to try it out, and I don't have a PlayStation 5, so I probably won't be getting to try it out, but a ton of other content creators have, and they've spoken very highly about it. And to quote from Twitter, Pistol Whip launches on PSVR 2 February 22nd, with immersive enhancements like haptic feedback, 3D audio, finger touch detection, and adaptive triggers. So it does seem like a ton of VR games are going to be able to take advantage of these technologies, and I do think that they will bring immersion to the next level, especially haptics. Haptics are so important in a game. If you have good haptics, they can make a game miles better, but if you have bad haptics, they can absolutely ruin a title. So it's very, very important that games do this correctly, and I'm very, very excited thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a fantastic day or night, wherever you are in the world. If you guys like this one, please do leave a like. It costs you nothing, and it helps the channel out a lot. If you disliked it, I guess this button works too. But let me know why down below. Thank you so much to the Patreons supporting this channel. You guys help me out a ton, paying my bills, paying my subscriptions, and helping make these videos better. So thank you so much. If you guys are not yet part of our community, check out our Discord and check out our Reddit down below. I want to see you posting your spicy memes on there. I know I haven't gotten to the things you guys have posted.
How you going? See, the other day, I was attempting to remove a tree stump from my...
Welcome to Starbucks. What can we get started for you today?
Yeah. Is pumpkin spice back on the menu?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, it is.
Okay, great. I'll take a coffee with some of that yummy pumpkin cream cold foam.
Okay, that will be $6.25 at the window.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, here's your coffee. The person in front of you paid for your order, so you're all set.
Wow, really? That's so kind of them. So many kind souls in the universe. I'm just so happy the pumpkin spice is back.
Yeah, no, it's certainly popular.
Okay, well, thank you. Yep, thanks. Bye.
All right, have a great day.
Welcome to Starbucks. What can we get started for you today?
Hello, can I get 2 iced chai lattes with the pumpkin cream cold foam? Extra pumpkin.
Sure. The total is $12.50 at the first window.
Oh, hello again.
It's creepy. It's creeping me out. Oh no.
Red tea or white chocolate mocha. Extra hot, please. No whipped cream. Skip.
Welcome to...
Pumpkin spice latte!
What is happening? What the fuck is happening right now?
It's a white chocolate mocha. It was for the woman in front of you.
Bring me pumpkin! Go back there and get it for me!
Welcome to Starbucks. What can we get started for you today?
What is this?
Please pull forward.
This is crazy.
Ma'am, I don't know if I can give you this drink. It doesn't seem right.
It's not good for you, lady.
Welcome to Starbucks. What can we get started for you today?
Yeah! Is pumpkin spice back on the menu?
This is the map of Southwestern Asia, one of the world's most notable geographical regions. In red, situated between Israel and Jordan, is the Dead Sea. It is a salt lake bordered by Jordan to the east and Israel to the west. Its major tributary is the Jordan River. This natural wonder is one of Earth's saltiest water bodies.
and that makes it a steady center of attraction for scientists and geologists. However, recent exploration of the Dead Sea has led to a shocking discovery that baffles the entire world of science. What did the scientists discover? Could it be an unidentified sea monster that survived the sea's harsh conditions? Join us as we explore what scientists discovered at the Dead Sea that is set to shock the entire world. Located on the Jordan-Israel border, the Dead Sea is a saline lake in southwestern Asia and is almost 10 times saltier than ordinary seawater. Also known as the Salt Sea, it is situated at an elevation of 430.5 meters below sea level, making it the Earth's lowest land-based feature. The Dead Sea's main inlet is the River Jordan, but it does not have an outlet, so the only way the sea loses water is by evaporation. Its high saline level and climate makes the lake completely devoid of almost all forms of life, except for algae and other microorganisms. However, many strange things have been happening around the Dead Sea, and one that baffles scientists is the discovery of a water body that turned red like blood. This is quite strange, as the last time a water body turned red like blood was in the Bible. And as we know it, the Dead Sea is quite prominent because it's been mentioned several times in the Bible, although it was not known by one name. In the Hebrew language, the water body is referred to as Yam HaMelam, which translates to the Salt Sea, while in some Hebrew prose, the Dead Sea is often called Yam HaMaveh. This means the Sea of Death, due to its composition and inability to keep macroscopic organisms like plants and fish alive. That led to the hypersaline lake being known widely as the Dead Sea, due to its high saline level and vast emptiness. As a prominent landmark in major history books, seeing a red pool of water turning into blood just doesn't look right or natural. This shocking discovery was made in modern-day Jordan, an area that is also known as Moab in the Bible. The pool of water turning mysteriously red right inside the Jordanian border was a huge shock that, upon discovery, the country's Ministry of Water and Irrigation had to step in. Workers from the ministry went to the location of this strange phenomenon and took samples from the water to understand the cause and origin of this problem. And while the Jordanian ministry has been trying to study the cause of this problem, images of this red blood-filled water have already circulated all over the internet, which has sparked many controversies. One major topic social media users brought up is the theory of this discovery being a modern plague. A lot of people succumb to the possibility of this theory being valid, as blood-red waters carry a lot of significance in the Old Testament as one of the 10 plagues cast on Egypt and its stubborn pharaoh so as to free the Israelites from slavery. According to the biblical account, God transformed the River Nile's composition from fresh water into blood. This killed aquatic life forms in the river and prevented the Egyptians from using the water in their daily activities like they usually do, as the water had become useless. Another baffling discovery was when geologists discovered that the eastern shores of the Dead Sea, where the blood-red pond was found, also happened to be the region where two iconic cities from the Bible once stood. These cities are Sodom and Gomorrah, and God allegedly destroyed them for their transgressions. But while these theories were making their rounds on the internet, the Jordanian government had been researching to see if there is an earthly reason to explain this strange phenomenon. And so it wouldn't seem like the government was taking such an issue with levity. The head of the Water and Agriculture Committee of the Al-Karat Council, Fatih Al-Huwaimal, announced that the authorities had been informed and beginning to work on discovering the water's source. While there are no valid explanations for now, some scientific theories were also positive to explain why the lagoon, isolated from fresh water, suddenly changed its color. The director of agriculture in the southern Jordan Valley, Yassin Al-Kasasba, gave his point of view, saying that this strange phenomenon is found in ponds close to seas due to a particular bacteria's presence, and also red algae that loves salinity. Algae changes its color with the presence of sunlight. However, that still does not give a detailed explanation as to why the water suddenly turned red, while other pools did not display the same phenomenon, especially given that the area experiences near year-round sunny skies. However, while some people did not believe this theory, other officials postulated that the presence of iron oxide in the water could be the reason for the strange color change. Still, this reason didn't sound valid enough, as there was no explanation for how the iron oxide got into the pool and why the color transformed rapidly. Another theory came up from the head of the Jordanian geologist syndicate, Sakar al-Nusawa, when he said that the addition of substances by humans could have caused the red colour. This viewpoint was shared by several Jordanians who accused the government of covering up a source of pollution or using the pool as a dumping ground for waste chemicals. So this theory travelled across social media as well as it sounded valid enough. But unfortunately, that wasn't the actual reason for the phenomenon. A similar incident of water turning blood red happened in Israel when the Alexander River looked like the Bible's plague of blood. The Alexander River runs 32 kilometers from the hills of Nablus in the West Bank, across the border into Israel, and across the Mediterranean coastal plain to the Emek Hefer Regional Council, an area of rural communities, kibbutzim and moshevim, to the sea. It is loved for its wildlife and beauty, but its sudden look and pollution with blood-filled water gave the river a very eerie look. This almost became a matter of national crisis as several media houses in Israel published photos of the red blood-filled water in the papers and magazines. It was also widely talked about in the news and shows as the prestigious river suddenly changed its orientation and what could have caused it. It turned out that the river Alexander's appearance came as a result of blood, feathers and other animal body parts pouring out of slaughterhouses. These animal parts came from several Palestine slaughterhouses in the northern West Bank city of Tulkarem, and unfortunately that wasn't the first time it happened. Normally the animal and blood waste is cleaned by a purification plant, but heavy rainfall had swamped the system and it wasn't cleared before it washed into Nahal Alexander. The unfortunate incident coincided with the previous month's heavy demand for chicken that was supplied to Israelis because of the Passover celebrations and Muslims before the month-long Ramadan festival. The terrible sight of this river led to complaints from officials as it was almost becoming an environmental disaster. In fact, it was more of an accusation, not just a complaint. The accusation came a few months before the incident from the Society for the Protection of Nature, where they warned that Israel's tax laws have made the Alexander River turn into blood. This must have come from a place of pain, judging from the fact that Alexander is one of the most ecologically important rivers in Israel, and it's being treated that way. The association said in a statement, polluted runoff from slaughterhouses and other industries have polluted this river and turned it red in the middle of Passover, and it's not the first time. And to top it all off, the blood pollution happened at a time when the entire world was battling with the coronavirus pandemic, and the campaign group had urged the nation's leaders to understand how essential nature is to mental well-being. Calls were also made to the Environmental Protection Minister to deal with the issue. They advised the ministry to strive and ensure ecological plagues like blood pollution do not happen again. Well, it did, and that sure is enough to protest. The Alexander River flows from mountain aquifers and is used by the entire population of both Israel and Palestine. And 10 years ago, this river suffered the fate of environmental pollution until the tourist Israel and their Palestine counterparts came together to transform it. Now, you might think the pool near the Dead Sea probably suffered the same fate, but it didn't. With the earlier scientific theories being algae, iron oxide, or the addition of substances by humans, those theories didn't turn out to be the answer. The actual reason came a couple of weeks later and was brought by the Jordan Valley Authority, a Jordanian government agency in charge of the region's water supply. They had run a couple of tests on the water, and the results showed that the reason behind the appearance of red is due to the manganese in the water. Well, that was one weird discovery that had never been heard of before. Manganese is a naturally occurring element that is known for its frequent occurrence in the Earth's environment. It can be found in the soil, air, and water. In fact, it is also in our food. However, scientists postulated that a very high concentration of manganese could change the water's colour and give it a reddish appearance, just like iron. According to a geological survey done in the United States, iron and manganese are both metals that can cause stains to plumbing fixtures or laundry. However, they are not known to be the cause of health issues. But one thing that still remains unclear is how the Dead Sea pool has such a high amount of manganese. Discoveries around the Dead Sea are not a new occurrence, being a beacon of history right from biblical times. However, modern discoveries were not made until the 19th century. During the biblical era, several sects of Jews used to reside in caves near the Dead Sea. Some of these Jews are the Essenes, who left spectacular Dead Sea scrolls in the caves of Qumran. Also, Sodom and Gomorrah, the famous cities talked about in the book of Genesis, are believed to have been on the Dead Sea's southeastern shore. There is also a nature reserve located near the Dead Sea, and it's called Ein Gedi. This is an area mentioned in the Bible where King David hid from Saul. The ancient history of the Dead Sea surrounds most of the Middle Eastern and Mediterranean people of the time. Examples of such people are the Nabateans, who used to harvest the Dead Sea's natural asphalt, and in all possibility were purchased by the Egyptians. Even the Romans were also in the picture as well, as they refer to the Dead Sea as Palus Asphaltitus, which translates to Asphalt Lake. However, the best moment we can point to in the Dead Sea history in ancient times was when a small group of Jewish zealots ran to Masada. Masada was a fortress built by King Herod the Great at the time. It was constructed on a hill overlooking the Dead Sea. The Jewish zealots ran there after the Second Temple's destruction in 70 AD. Unfortunately, they didn't escape for long. They were sieged at the fortress in 73 AD by the Roman ex-legion, but they refused to give in. Rather than surrender, they opted to die by mass suicide. Greek Orthodox monks also came to this area during the Byzantine period to seek refuge. They constructed multiple monasteries near the Dead Sea. The St. George Monastery in Wadi Kelt is one of them. However, all these incidents happened long ago and were only remembered with the help of history books. So up until the 19th century, the Dead Sea was known as a mystery to the developing world, covered in references from the Bible, but unexplored, unknown, and uncharted. Regardless, several explorers went on to begin uncovering its mysteries. The first known modern explorer of the Dead Sea was a young Irishman named Christopher Costigan, who had become fascinated by the Holy Land while he studied for the Catholic priesthood. He began his exploration in 1835 with no navigational maps to help him navigate the Jordan River and the Dead Sea, which post-dated the Middle Ages. His exploration was quite short, as it only lasted 8 days. This happened due to a lack of fresh water and an absence of winds for sailing. As there was no fresh water, Costigan had no choice but to boil and drink the brackish water of the sea. In the course of his exploration, he contracted a severe fever, which is said to be possibly a result of massive dehydration. Being in the middle of nowhere, his assistant had to leave him on the northern shore of the Dead Sea and went to seek help. He got to a nearby Greek Orthodox monastery and got help for Costigan, which a mule carried for medical assistance in Jerusalem. Unfortunately, he was pronounced dead on arrival and was later buried on Mount Zion. 13 years later, a lieutenant in the U.S. Navy, Lieutenant William Francis Lynch, was able to make more explorations than Costigan. In 1848, Lynch began an expedition to the Dead Sea with 2 boats containing a large team of men. Lynch's expedition was successful. His exploration brought forth the first published charted maps of the Dead Sea and the Jordan River. The Jordan River runs along the border between Jordan, the Palestinian West Bank, Israel, and southwestern Syria. Then, over 20 years passed before a courageous Scotsman sailed past the newly opened Suez Canal and the Nile with his canoe to the region. Having travelled through the Sea of Galilee previously, John McGregor canoed all the way from the Jordan River to the Dead Sea. He named his canoe Rob Roy, discovered in Britain not long ago. It now resides in Tel Aviv's Eretz Israel Museum. The Moabite stone was also discovered in the Dead Sea region in 1868. King Mesha of the ancient kingdom of Moab set it up. Frederick Augustus Klein, an Anglican and missionary, discovered it on the plateau east of the Dead Sea. However, that discovery won't stay on for long, as it was smashed by local villagers when they argued over its ownership. The 20th century also included major discoveries, but one discovery in the late 1940s and early 1950s was one of the most significant biblical discoveries in history. This finding was the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls are hundreds of religious documents that date between 150 BC and 70 AD. They were discovered in the Qumran caves, about 1.6 kilometers from the Dead Sea's northwestern shore. They were initially discovered by 3 Bedouin shepherds in 1946 to 47. Then the caves were excavated by a team from the American School of Oriental Research. As they excavated, more scrolls were found. This goes to show that weird phenomena like this are common around the Dead Sea. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below.
and lie to women?
It's like you were just somebody completely different.
I feel like really dissociated, and I feel really bad.
Alright, so I'm back again for day 5. I'm getting so frustrated. Why won't people talk to me?
And then that person, after the end of this week with Sasuke Uchiha, will not exist anymore.
Hey, you. I'm back with the milk and cigarettes. Yeah, of course I was coming back. Why? I told you I was coming back. Did you doubt me? Why would you do that? Did your pops lie to you? You just have to get the milk. Wow, that's facial hair? That's new. I could have sworn you were a girl. Drink up. Yeah, you'll need your strength. You'll need your strength in the coming years. Don't look at it. Did you see this? Don't look at this. Don't look at it! Don't look at it! Listen close, okay? I don't have much time, but I need to tell you something very important, okay? Are you paying attention? Son, did you know that Raid Shadow Legends is now on Mac and PC? Wow! That's... Hi, I'm Roger, and welcome to my latest creation, life. The only way to experience my beautiful experiment is while huddled in a fragile meat suit that requires constant food and protection. You can either scavenge and hunt in the wilderness, or you can scavenge and hunt in society, which is a nicer way of saying you can rob and murder. But don't worry, I've created a third option. Pages with faces drawn on them. If you have enough of these, you can exchange them for anything. Don't have any of these pages already because your parents were too lazy to inherit and pass along generational wealth? Don't worry. You can still get them just by doing stuff. I call it a job, and you'll need to have one pretty much every single day of your life until your fragile meat suit finally gives up. First, there's table jobs. Jobs where you sit at a table. You'll look in front of you and you'll push down at squares for anywhere from 1 to 2/3 of your entire day. It may sound repetitive, but the exact order in which you push these squares can make somebody, not you, an embarrassment of pages with faces.
When I finish pushing squares, I drive home and relax by sitting at a different table and pushing the same squares, but in a different order.
A well-earned rest. You might think it'd make more sense for you to press those work squares from your house and save a few hours driving from one table to another and save your crotch from tightening uncomfortable cloth around it every morning. But the people who distribute pages with faces already committed their face pages to paying for a building full of tables, so they're damn well going to make sure you're sitting in it.
It's all right. The office is where I socialize and maybe even find love.
It's true. You'll sit so close to other meat suits, it'll feel like a butcher's fridge or a prison. You'll love talking with other table workers simply because though we plop you in the table room for 8 hours a day, we can never think of enough stuff to fill those hours.
But it's somehow worse than working.
It sure is, friend. So maybe you'll instead become a blue-collar worker, member of the working class. What do people like you like to be called? I don't want you to be offended.
Why would I be offended?
Because we all look down on anthropomorphic labor donkeys for some reason. Hey, what I'm saying is you can specialize in what I call hand jobs. Hey, jobs where you work with your hands. These jobs involve selling your body, but not in the fun, lucrative way, just in the low-paying, physically demanding.
At least my job keeps me fit. Muscles grow when you strain them. All other parts of my body will deteriorate, though. My neck, my back, my elbows. Damn it, I don't look good doing it.
And that's if you don't take a type of hand job that damages you extra.
Well, can you offer me any kind of protection from all that?
That's with us protecting you. And we're going to try robots to do all the exhausting, dangerous stuff for you. But aren't you still have your hand job. If there's any job we'll replace with robots, it's actually... Oh. People jobs. The kind where you deal with people. Maybe you take things from one side of the room and deliver them to the other side, like in a food place. Maybe you touch things with machines so another machine can add up prices. It's a job so pointless, we increasingly just let customers do it themselves. Hey, I am not that replaceable. Even if the machines and apps we built to replace you aren't as good at the jobs as you are, people will still prefer them to you. Because they're cheaper? No, it's hard to get much cheaper than $7 an hour. It's because they don't like you. They forget anything good you do. I'm not the bad guy here. It's the customers who are all... Of course. They're stressed out, trying to wring the most out of what little time they have not working. All the while knowing within just a few sleepless hours, they'll be back at their table or swinging a sledgehammer or dealing with horrific customers of their own in an Ouroborosian cycle of entitled sadness. Well, there's got to be more to life than that. There is. Maybe you'll find something creative. Something that gets your blood pumping. Something that truly leaves your mark on this world.
Like me, I love what I do.
For now. But the only way you can keep doing what you love is by commodifying it and turning it back into a job like everyone else's. You'll no longer choose to do it. You must do it. You no longer decide how to do it. You'll do it the way we tell you. We could hire you to sing songs to kittens while eating peanut butter cups, but give us 2 months, and we'll have you loathing every delightful minute.
Well, forget you then. I will do my act my way, on this side, until it finds an audience.
That's a great idea. All you'll need is some simple job, just temporarily to pay the bills for a little while, until your passion becomes a career.
That's what I did 20 years ago. Hey, speaking of paying the bills, just how many face pages do you get for facilitating what we do?
Wow, way more than we give you. It's fair, though, because you're making as much as we let you think you're worth. Otherwise, you'd never agree to work. And like I said before, there are other ways of getting food. I've been Roger, by the way. And while you're out here job hunting, I'm hunting too. For the most dangerous game.
Okay. That's good. I'm not the tallest man in the world. I'm far from the smartest man in the world. I'm not the most athletic man in the world. But you know what I am? A Walmart shopper. For a long time, I've always sung the praises of Walmart. If you tallied up every store I've ever visited, Walmart would be #1 by an overwhelmingly large margin. I've spent more time at Walmart than I have in my own house, probably. Everything I've ever needed or wanted, I always immediately resort to Walmart to find it. It was like this repository of everything humanity's ever created for a really good price. I'd get things from Yu-Gi-Oh cards to groceries to a little freeze beam wart remover, which never got cold enough to actually freeze off the wart. It was like putting an ice cube on the wart, so it never actually solved any problems, but I didn't blame Walmart for it. They just put it on the shelves, and I was the stupid idiot that trusted it would work. That's not on them, that's on me. The point I'm making is I've always been a loyal Walmart enthusiast, and I've always felt a special bond between myself and that location. So you can imagine my sense of betrayal when I learned that right now they're peddling bootleg versions versions of my merch. A dagger to my heart to see my beloved Walmart housing such evilness. Now, of course, this isn't a serious situation by any means. It's pretty goofy. I just wanted to talk about it a bit because I found it pretty interesting. I'm not surprised that knockoff versions of YouTuber merch exist. That's been something that's been around since the dawn of time. On like Etsy, Redbubble, AliExpress, like every single site where you can pretty much upload whatever you want. But what was surprising is that it was on Walmart, because for me, I thought there was like a vetting protocol for Walmart, because you always hear about how like big it is when something gets into a Walmart, like the process of getting there. Like when pink sauce ended up on the Walmart shelves, that had me and everyone else going, goodness gracious, how is such a thing possible? And then they always talk about like the year-long battle with Walmart to convince them to put it in the stores and shit like that. So I've just always had this impression that getting into Walmart is no easy task at all, with a lot of hurdles you have to overcome. But then my very understanding of how it works was shaken when I saw that bootleg moist merch is already there. Now, I don't think it's in physical locations or anything.
Brian Terrian from the Disability.
This footage shows the last public appearance of Steve Jobs. 4 months before his death, he speaks to the Cupertino City Council to reveal one final project.
Apple's growing like a weed, and as you know, we've always been in Cupertino. Started in a little office park and eventually got the buildings we are in now at the corner of Deanne's and 280.
The previous so-called Apple campus was no longer big enough for the growing company. The buildings, constructed in 1993, are arranged along a circular private road, Infinite Loop, named after a programming term for a code that will run endlessly by itself. In order to cope with the growing number of employees, the company started acquiring more and more buildings in the area. Eventually, Apple was operating out of a chaotic mix of buildings that were originally developed entirely separately from one another and are by no means ideal for a coherent office headquarters.
So we're renting buildings, not very good buildings either, at an ever greater radius from our campus. And it's clear that we need to build a new campus.
The plan was not to abandon the existing campus at Infinite Loop, but to expand it with a larger, modern one. Apple was able to acquire a large piece of land that is not only located nearby, but also sits directly on Interstate 280, which runs through the entire Silicon Valley, offering good accessibility for employees. A large part of this area was for sale because the computer company Hewlett-Packard closed their offices here, and Steve Jobs personally came full circle by acquiring this site, as it was somewhat personal to him.
When I was 13, I think, I called up Hewlett-Packard were my idols, and I called up Bill Hewlett because he lived in Palo Alto, and he picked up the phone, and I talked to him, and I asked him if he'd give me some spare parts for something I was building called a frequency counter. And he did, but in addition to that, he gave me something way more important. He gave me a job that summer, a summer job at Hewlett-Packard, right here in Santa Clara off 280, the division that built frequency counters. And I was in heaven. Well, right around that exact moment in time, Hewlett and Packard themselves were walking on some property over here in Cupertino, in Prune Ridge, and they ended up buying it. And they built their computer systems division there. And as Hewlett-Packard has been shrinking lately, they decided to sell that property, and we bought it.
Apple hired the design studio Foster & Partners by British architect Norman Foster, one of the most influential contemporary architects in the world. Foster's career initially took off in the 1970s when he made his name by creating machine-influenced buildings that borrowed industrial design elements for a modernist look. less harsh elements, but an evolving modern aesthetic. His buildings display a functional modernity, a good fit as his design approach is akin to Apple's own product philosophy. In designing the new Apple campus, Foster worked closely with Steve Jobs, who had a very personal vision for the project, and Johnny Ive, then Apple's chief design officer, who, having worked at Apple since the late 90s, was about as renowned in the field of product design as Foster was in the field of architecture. It was the beginning of a special partnership of exceptional talents.
We've seen these office parks with lots of buildings, and they get pretty boring pretty fast. So we'd like to do something better than that. And the campus we'd like to build there is one building that holds 12,000 people.
The final complex is called Apple Park, and it is characterized by its centerpiece, a single ring-shaped building surrounded by vast parkland. And while the campus itself is the result of a unique collaboration, the building is designed to enable exactly these types of collaborations. The parks should invite employees who may work in completely different parts of the building to cross paths and exchange ideas. The circular building is divided into 9 sections, each connected by a light-filled atrium. And although the building as a whole offers an enormous amount of space, due to the ring shape, it is not overwhelmingly large at any individual point. Within the individual segments, walkways lead around the building along the outer and inner rims. These walkways are separated from the outside only by a continuous wall made of glass that stretches from the floor to the ceiling, allowing a panoramic view of the surroundings. Apple claims that these are the largest curved glass panels used in any building to date, and sticking out from the...
Congratulations. It's time to call Mom and Dad. Tell them that the second mortgage they took out for your degree was worth it because you now have a job. But a job is not a career. No. A job is just a foot in the door. If you want a career, you want to be standing where I'm standing 15 years from now, then you had better listen very fucking carefully to the next 176 words out of my mouth, because this is your new reality. When you walk through that door each and every morning, your ass is mine. There will be no cell phone use. There will be no smoke breaks. There will be no conversation and putting into the job. There will be no motherfucking shit stinking unless authorized by me personally. And if you happen to be lucky enough to get that authorization, you will have exactly 4 minutes and 30 seconds to expel your fecal material, wipe your ass, and wash your filthy hands and get back to work. And if I happen to come across a shit smear in the toilet bowl of that employee restroom, I will personally go to each and every one of your homes and shit in places that will leave you confused for the rest of your lives. Excellence. I expect it, I demand it, and I deliver it. And there's really only one thing you need to know. This ain't Toys R Us, motherfuckers. This Toys R Me. What the fuck is this?
It's the Bakugan display you asked me to set up.
Imagine, if you can, that you are a proud and powerful Gargoyle. Can you do that?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Imagine it.
Okay.
Good. Now, you tell me, would a Gargoyle call this a Bakugan display?
Get out from back there. Get out from back there.
It took insult to his breast, not worth shitting on for all the sacred dream crystals in the lavender cloud dimension. Know the goddamn toys and show them some fucking respect.
exactly 15 seconds to finish whatever the hell it is you're doing in there, or I will kick in this fucking door and drag your ass out. Do you hear me?
Can you chill out? I'm on my period.
No, you're not.
This toy store sucks. There's not even any Xbox games.
Have you ever heard the story of the rich old man and the stray dog?
No, sounds crappy.
Well, there was once a very old man, and one day he came across a stray dog. Well, he decided to take that dog home with him, and that dog went straight to the fire and rolled himself up in an old rug and started chewing an old bone. And over the years, the old man bought the dog lots of expensive beds, lots of expensive meals, much better than most people get to eat. But that dog always went back to the old rug and that old bone, because he knew that that was all he really needed. Now, who do you think you are in this story?
The rich old man didn't know that happiness comes from the simple things in life.
No, you are the running shit the dog would take every morning because he had canine collapse from living on the street so long. Now get the fuck out of my store. You know, I've noticed your work around here.
Really?
Yes. Very impressive.
Wow, thank you.
You know, if you keep this up, you could find yourself riding high on the hog in no time.
A raise? Really?
No. No, hog is what I call my penis.
Fuck yeah.
Oh. Ah. Mmm. Oh. Ah. Mmm. Toys. Ah. Mmm.
What is it that you want?
Hello, I'm MC Toon. Today's video is by a guy called The Biker Scout. Now, this is a video from 2015, but it was reposted on TikTok recently. You won't believe the stuff he says, especially the very last thing he does is blatant lies. It's just over the top. Just watch this.
Greetings, fellow humans. I'm the Biker Scout. A little background about me, other than the obvious Star Wars reference. I ride a motorcycle full time. But I'm a professional designer and photographer first.
Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to have another long video.
This man is the internet's favorite Sigma male businessman, but he's secretly a bad dude. Time to idolize him.
If you're seeking the cause of the Dutch egg...
Hi. Welcome to another episode of Cold Fusion. Today, electric vehicles have become a common sight on roads around the world. Although EVs are still financially out of reach for most households, budget options by major manufacturers are beginning to appear at dealerships. There's no doubt that the 2020s are going to be the decade that they go mainstream. In fact, over 50 countries have banned the sale of new petrol-fueled cars in the coming decades. With that being said, there's a lesser-known story here, a fascinating hidden history. What many don't realize is that the electric vehicle revolution has been attempted before, and it almost happened. In the mid-1990s, General Motors released what is widely considered the first true commercial electric car, the EV1. The EV1 was a critical and commercial success, a shining example of what an electric car could be. But suddenly, this industry-altering product mysteriously disappeared from the market. The customers were happy and wanted to keep their cars, but General Motors took all the EV1s and shipped them off into the desert to be crushed. So what on earth happened? Let's explore this twisting and bizarre story of the first modern EV and what stopped the electric revolution before it had a chance to properly begin.
Ooh, no claws. No claws. Can't do that. You gotta remember, I got you. No claws. Stop it. Get the claws off that.
A long time ago when EVs dominated city streets. Astonishingly, electric-powered wagons predated gasoline-powered cars. The first of these came in 1884. It was a patent by Thomas Parker. Although it was a great start, it was more of a hybrid steam-powered car than a truly electric one. But in 1888, German innovator Andreas Flocken manufactured what historians regard as the first true EV. Not long after, Carl Benz invented the motor wagon, which was the basis for the automotive industry of the next century. But even with the competition of gas-powered options, the public still preferred electric. Why? Because they ran smoothly and they were quiet. Meanwhile, gas-powered vehicles were loud, produced smoke, and needed a lot of muscle to start because you had to use a hand crank. In 1894, the first American EV company was founded, Morris and Salem Electric Carriage and Wagon Company. And by 1897, electric taxis had hit the street and the floodgates were open. The industry was flooded with EV innovation over the next...
If you're seeking the cause of the Dutch agriculture and fisheries protests, the Canadian trucker convoy, or before that, the rise of the so-called Yellow Jackets in France, the farmer rebellion in India a few years ago, the recent catastrophic collapse of Sri Lanka, or the energy crises in Europe and Australia, you can instruct yourself by the recent pronouncements from Deloitte. While not directly responsible, they offer an insight into the elite groupthink that has triggered these events, into the cabal of centralizing globalist utopians operating in the media, corporate and government fronts, wielding a nightmarish vision of environmental apocalypse. What might we rely on instead to guide us forward in these times of accelerating trouble and possibility? Valid authority rests in the people. Truly valid structures of authority are local, not centralized for reasons of efficiency and emergency. This must not become the generation of yet another top-down Tower of Babel that will not solve our problems, just as similar attempts have failed to solve our problems in the past. Ask yourself, are these Deloitte models, which are supposed to guide all the important decisions we make about the economic security of
Scientists used to consider Mars a geologically dead planet. It's smaller than Earth and...
As you know, there have been lots of layoffs, even from the biggest tech companies. Meta laid off...
Hey, what's going on, Bards? We are here. Once you see this, and this, you will know that God really parted the Red Sea. You're not going to believe this, but professors from the University of Arizona have recently confirmed by using radiocarbon dating that the story of Moses splitting the Red Sea might not be far-fetched after all. But if that wasn't a...
This former child star made the conscious decision to remove herself from the industry, famously known for her role as
Mr. Welburn, I had a question about my...
Jenkins, get down.
What?
Get down, for God's sakes. Jenkins, you're a good kid. How long you been with the company?
2 years this May, sir?
I started this company 45 years ago. Built this empire with my own bare hands. And I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth either. I started out in my father's tool shed. I won't lie to you, I had to claw my way to the top. Might have stepped on a few fingers and toes. Heck, may have even slit a few throats along the way. But that's business. I forged this corporation with my own blood and sweat. And it cost me 2 marriages, 1 heart attack, and every weekend of my life to get this company where it is today. And this morning I walk into my office and the sons of bitches over at Bergman Sachs put a sniper on the roof.
Come again, sir?
A sniper. Trained killer specializing in long distances. Quiet. Stealthy. But above all else, patient.
Sir, I don't think they would put a sniper on their roof.
Sure they would. It's the right move. They don't want this merger to go through any more than the Kayazukis, but they've got the cojones to actually do something about it. That's why they're number 2. But let me show you why we're number 1. Slide me that case behind the pouch. You see, business is all about being able to adapt. You gotta learn how to roll with the punches. I'm gonna need you to pop up and give me a 20 on me.
What?
I know he's on the 75th floor, but I can't figure out if he's the 3rd or 4th window from the left.
Bob. Okay.
Now don't worry. He's got a beat on me, so if you're quick, he won't have enough time to readjust. Now, go.
Oh my God, you're right. Oh my God, you're right. Holy smokes. He's the 3rd window from the left.
Julie, could you send in one of the interns, please? You see, everything worthwhile takes sacrifice. You'd be good to remember that. You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs.
More coffee, sir? Jesus! Oh my God!
You see, it takes about 3.5 seconds to reload and trace another target, which gives me an adequate window to fire off a couple rounds. Pure business. And that is a kill. You see, patience and sacrifice yield rewards. Business. It's probably them now. I'll bet they want to talk. Calvin, you son of a bitch, nice try with that sniper. Yeah, you took out one of my coffee boys. I'll bet I scooped his head clear off. Now let's get down to brass tacks. This merger's going through whether you like it or not, but how much is it going to cost to keep you from tying things up in the Trade Commission? Flash bomb.
Jesus, God!
Jenkins, quiet down. I'm on the phone. 10% is robbery, and you know that. Meredith didn't even get 5% in the prenup. What I'm saying is 5% domestic, 1% international, and that's my final offer. You still there? I'll bet we have a deal. All right. Say hello to the missus for me. I'll see you on the greens. Business. Plain and simple. Now, what was it that you came in here for?
My brother's getting married in 2 weeks, and I was wondering if I could have that Friday as a vacation day. Would you sign my slip?
No.
Today, we will attempt not only to warm ourselves with a...
There was this tiny little fluffy beady-eyed baby looking at me from underneath.
Phoenix, Arizona is a monument to man's arrogance. It's a city of 5 million that should not exist. An endless sea of concrete, asphalt, and single-family homes in the desert, briefly interrupted by a small group of skyscrapers. Temperatures during summer normally reach about 40 degrees Celsius with 330 days of sunshine each year. Despite the dry, hellish desert climate, the lawns are lush and green, nearly every house has a swimming pool, and the city is dotted with large, verdant golf courses. All this in the wake of a historic drought and accelerating climate change. Phoenix has been called the least sustainable city in the world, for good reason. Climate change plus 5 million strong desert cities do not go well together, and to put it mildly.
Where are you going?
What's this? Uh-oh.
At Pelosa, we're on a mission to create a more equitable and sustainable future. By starting with a clean slate, we have this really unique opportunity to focus on what's most important. We're not just building a new city. This is a new model for society.
We will create a 15-minute city that promotes active and sustainable modes of transportation, mixed.
I'm going to stick my foot in the fire again, because if life has ever taught me one thing, is if you burn one foot, you should burn the other one. That way they feel safe.
Hello! It's been a while.
So,
Is time travel possible? Well, according to physicists,
You don't know what you're supposed to.
is time travel possible? Well, according to physicists, yes. Time travel to the future is not only possible, it's been scientifically proven. But what about traveling to the past? Well, that's a little trickier. But there does seem to be some evidence that travelers from the future have visited us in the past, and maybe among us right now. Let's find out why.
The laws of physics seem to be compatible with time machines. This is very unsettling.
Welcome to the Y-Files, where cool nerds laugh and learn. The human race has been fascinated with traveling through time ever since the human race understood what time was. But has time travel been achieved by future humans? And if so, did they leave us clues that they were here? Well, we've scoured the internet for the best time travel stories we could find. You may know some of them, some may be new to you, some are hoaxes, a few have been debunked, but there are a couple of stories that defy explanation. Let's get into it. In 1950, a New York City police officer working missing persons cases examined the body of a 30-year-old man who was brought to the morgue. The man had appeared in the middle of Times Square at 11:15 p.m. that evening. The witness described him as gawking and looking around at the cars and at the signs like he'd never seen them before. He then tried to cross the street against the traffic lights, was hit by a speeding taxi, and died. Pockets of his clothing had coins and currency that had not been in circulation for decades, yet many of them were in mint condition. He also had items from businesses that no longer existed in New York City, like a bill from a livery stable, a brass slug from a saloon, and a letter postmarked 1876. He also had identification bearing the name Rudolph Fentz with an address on Fifth Avenue. Now, the name Rudolph Fentz didn't appear in the New York City phone book, and the Fifth Avenue address listed on the dead man's card had been a business for many years, not a residence, and no one there had ever heard of Rudolph Fentz. The deceased fingerprints matched nothing on file, and no current police reports fit the man's description. Also, his clothes appeared to be about 75 years out of date. Tags on his clothing had the name and address of a tailor that no one had ever heard of, and his hat, which looked new, came from a shop that had been closed for over 50 years. The investigating officer finally turned up a listing in an old phone book for a Rudolph Fentz Jr., a man in his 60s who had passed away 5 years earlier. Now, his widow was still living and said her husband's father, Rudolph Fentz Sr., had disappeared sometime in the 1870s. He had gone out for a walk one night around 10 p.m., but was never seen again.
This is crazy!
I know. So a search of an old missing persons report turned up a Rudolph Fentz, dated 1876, and the man's clothing and address matched those of the man killed in Times Square in 1950. So, that missing persons case was finally closed after 75 years, but a different case remains open. What really happened to Rudolph Fentz?
Depending on a trajectory you take around a black hole, you can come out and end up in the past of when you started.
Stop.
In 2003, the FBI arrested 44-year-old Andrew Carlson for suspicion of insider trading. In just 2 weeks, Carlson had made 126 consecutive high-risk profitable trades, turning his $800 of seed capital into a portfolio worth $350 million. Naturally, the SEC wanted this looked into.
Naturally. People with money don't want anyone else making money.
I can't deny that. Now, normally when someone is arrested for insider trading, they deny it. But during a 4-hour interrogation, investigators got an explanation they didn't expect. Carlson stated he traveled back in time from 250 years in the future, bringing knowledge of high-risk, high-profit stock trades. In his videotaped confession, Carlson said it was just too tempting to resist. He planned to make it look natural by losing a little here and there, but got caught up in the moment. So the SEC said he was either a lunatic or a pathological liar, because the only way he could pull this off was with illegal information. And they said he's going to sit in jail until he agrees to give up his sources. But Carlson did not give up his sources. He stuck to his story.
Even in the future, snitches get stitches.
Yup. So knowing he was going to prison, Carlson said in exchange for a lighter sentence, he'd be willing to reveal the cure for AIDS and the location of Osama bin Laden. He also said he didn't care about the money, he'd give it back. He just wanted to return to his time craft and go back to his own time. But he refused to reveal the location of the craft for fear that it would fall into the wrong hands. So, bail was set at $1 million and he was put into holding to await trial. And you would think that's the end of the story. And Carlson had no family, no friends, and no longer had any money. But after a few weeks in custody, a mysterious, unidentified man posted Carlson's bail of $1 million.
What? Who was the mystery man?
Well, we don't know. The mystery man and Carlson were never seen or heard from again. And even stranger, there's no record of anyone named Andrew Carlson before the day he was arrested.
Hey, question for you.
Yeah?
Did he mention anything about GameStop?
Time travel is possible if you're focusing upon time travel to the future.
Okay, this one gives me chills. Tyson's boxing match with Peter McNeely in 1993 was notable for being Iron Mike's first since his release from prison. It lasted only 89 seconds and was stopped after McNeely was knocked down twice. But the most remarkable moment occurred outside of the ring, where footage shows a spectator holding up a smartphone years before they were invented. The white phone camera has the distinctive slim-line design of a smartphone with the lens in the top left corner, another innovation associated with modern-day recording equipment. All right, enough talk. You gotta take a look at this.
What is that?
I honestly don't know. Camcorders were everywhere in the 90s, but they were bigger than this, and this guy obviously is holding it with one hand. A lot of people think it looks like an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy, but those wouldn't be invented for years, so...
Time travel!
What? This is a famous photo known as the time-traveling hipster. The image comes from the Bralone Pioneer Museum in British Columbia, and the photograph was taken in 1940 at the reopening of the South Fork Bridge in Canada. When the museum digitized the photo and put it online in 2010, people noticed something strange. At first glance, everything looks right. The men are in jackets, ties, and hats, the women in bonnets and overcoats. But look at this.
Whoa!
This guy appears to have a modern haircut, sunglasses, and he's wearing a graphic t-shirt under his cardigan. And what's that he's holding? Doesn't that seem too small to be a camera in 1940?
Photoshop?
No. The museum has confirmed that the photo is authentic and unaltered. So, who is he? Where is he from?
Don't you mean, when is he from?
With paths through space-time that seem to be permitted by the laws of physics, although it would require a very high advanced technology, much more advanced than us, to do it.
Out-of-place technology seems to pop up all over the place if you look for it. In 2010, a video called Chaplin's Time Traveler appeared on YouTube, and the clip analyzes bonus material from a DVD of Charlie Chaplin's 1928 film, The Circus. Now, the footage is from the film's Los Angeles premiere at Grauman's Chinese Theater, and at one point, a woman is seen walking by holding up an object to her ear, and a closer examination, she seems to be talking into a thin black device. What is this? There are no cell towers or satellites yet, so it's not a modern cell phone. Then what is it? She's definitely talking, but there's nobody else near her. Who is she talking to?
She's talking to other time agents. She's saying, this movie sucks. Let's get an In-N-Out burger instead.
Maybe. And a few years later, this happened again. This is footage from 1938 of people coming out of a DuPont factory. The woman in the center seems to be talking on a cell phone or some communication device, and then puts it away. Now, this video was so convincing that it's been covered by the Huffington Post, Daily Mail, and Yahoo News.
Oh, please.
What?
Yahoo News should change its name to Yahoo Random Words That Should Never Be Believed.
So you don't trust the media?
Bah, I'm a fish, not a sheep.
Fine, I got it. Don't trust the media.
Yeah, boy.
Anyway, Hagley's Digital Archive has full scans of every issue of DuPont magazine from 1913 to 1993, and there's no mention of a wireless communication device around the time of the film. So you tell me, who is she talking to?
Mission Control on the mothership.
Out-of-place technology can be found not just in film or old photographs, but in art created hundreds or thousands of years ago. Here are a few famous ones. In 2008, a team of archaeologists had made a puzzling discovery. The team included some journalists. They were filming a documentary at a dig site at a sealed tomb dating to the Ming Dynasty at Shaanxi, northern China. As one of the coffins were being cleared of soil before being opened, a strange metallic object was found. It was a small golden ring with a watch face on its front, approximately 2 millimeters thick. Tiny hands on the watch show the time had frozen at 10:06. The most astonishing of all, the back of the watch had the word Swiss engraved in English. Now, the tomb had been sealed for 400 years, and the watch itself was already 100 years old when it was placed inside. That dates to the 15th or 16th century. Switzerland wasn't even known by that name in English until 1848.
This is like a time traveler lost and found.
It kinda is. The Spanish city of Salamanca features a cathedral built in 1102. The carvings are pretty typical for the 12th century. Winding vines and leaves, gargoyles, demons, no big whoop. But what the heck is this? That appears to be a modern astronaut wearing a spacesuit, and not just a random spacesuit. This particular suit has features specific to the Apollo 11 EMU worn by Buzz Aldrin. You can see the helmet, the backpack, which held the primary life support system, and oxygen umbilical cords.
Gills are so underrated.
They are. But what really got me were the boots. They feature deep treads that would be used to explore dusty extraterrestrial surfaces like the moon and Mars. And he appears to be floating like he's on a spacewalk. So how could the artists have predicted all these details almost 900 years before they were invented?
1.21 gigawatts.
Okay, these stories are certainly fun, but are they real? Can they be explained? Maybe. You be the judge. Let's go through them. The case of Rudolph Fentz is an urban legend that's been around since the 1970s, maybe even earlier. I first heard it from my dad when I was a kid. But it's not true. It's actually an excerpt from a short story called I'm Scared, which was written by Jack Finney, who you might know as the author of The Body Snatchers. The story was published in Collier's magazine in 1951, about the time when Rudolph Fentz supposedly appeared.
Nice to believe it.
I know you do. The Andrew Carlson story is one of my favorites. I love this one. It has all the makings of a great conspiracy. Millions of dollars, a mysterious benefactor, a missing person. But this one originated as a fictional piece in the Weekly World News, a satirical newspaper. Later, the story was picked up by Yahoo News, so naturally people believed the story. It was then reported by other newspapers and magazines as fact, and this drove word of mouth, creating one of the great modern urban legends.
So, the lesson here is...
Don't believe anything the media says?
You're learning.
Okay, so the Mike Tyson fight. Although the device in the video does resemble a type of camera phone not sold until years later, it also could be one of a number of handheld cameras that were in fact widely available. The resolution and size of the original video make it difficult to determine the specific features of the device, but some believe it's similar to either the Casio QV-10A, the Casio QV-100, or the Logitech Photoman. So, debunked? Probably. Maybe. I'm not sure. If you think you know what kind of camera that is, please let us know in the comments. The idea that the hipster in the photograph is a time traveler hinges on 3 items that appear to be too modern for 1940. A logo t-shirt, a small portable camera, and the wraparound sunglasses. But all of those items were readily available in the 1940s. The internet says he's wearing a Montreal Maroons embroidered jersey, and the Maroons were a hockey team that played in the NHL from 1924 to 1938. Okay, while glasses with protective side shields were not widespread, you could get them in 1940, and the camera in his hand, there definitely were cameras that small back then. They were unusual and they were pretty expensive, but they did exist. So, debunked?
Nope.
The woman on the cell phone, quote-unquote, in the Charlie Chaplin clip, is thought to be using an early hearing aid. Though I'm not sure why she's talking to herself and looking around like people do when they're on the phone, but she could be talking to herself. I mean, I do that when I'm alone.
Do we really want to discuss what you do when you're alone?
No, I don't. But the DuPont video from 1938 is a little trickier. After the story went viral, the woman's family claimed that her name was Gertrude Jones, and she was working for DuPont and using an experimental wireless telephone developed by the company. Okay, that's fine, but look at the size of it. The earliest cell phones were huge. And this is before World War II. So you're telling me we had the technology to make batteries that small? Okay, fine. Let's say the battery technology did exist. It wouldn't be big enough to power a wireless radio. The walkie-talkie was only patented in 1936, and in the war, radio operators were followed around by another guy with a backpack that carried the transceiver and battery, which weighed over 30 pounds, or 18 kilograms. So heavy. So I don't know if this one is debunked. The ancient watch found in the Chinese tomb, that's a straight-up hoax. Photoshopped, debunked. The astronaut on the Cathedral of Salamanca, well, the sculpture is definitely real, but when the cathedral was renovated and restored in 1992, the artists added their own modern touches, including the astronaut. Debunked.
Crap, those were good ones.
I know they were, but 300 or 400 years from now, when someone looks at that church, they are going to be confused.
They say time is the fire in which we burn.
So why do we want so badly for these
The Republic of Seychelles is a small island country off the coast of Africa. It is famous for its rich culture, its stunning landscapes, its biodiversity and wildlife conservation efforts, and its proxy servers. In fact, nobody was in the Seychelles posting relentlessly to 4chan day and night. I mean, why would you? Go outside. As you might suspect by now, Seychelles was in fact a bot that I made and which I was happily controlling from my mom's basement. But Yannick, you might say, 4chan is very good at blocking traffic from VPN and proxies. How did you get around that? And also the CAPTCHAs on 4chan are among the hardest in the world. There's this slidey thingy, and even me as a human, it takes me like 2 to 3 tries every time to get one right. What AI trickery did you use to solve those? Good questions. I'll come back to those in a short while. But let's take a step back. How did we even get to this point? A few months ago, I stumbled across a random dataset on the internet. Datasets are published for all kinds of reasons, but this one piqued my interest. Raiders of the Lost Kek. 3.5 years of augmented 4chan posts from the politically incorrect board. So this is 3.5 years. That's 3.3 million threads from 2016 to 2019. So safe to say that is a lot of data, and it's from a board on 4chan called Politically Incorrect, or short, POL. POL is 4chan's most active board, with something like 150,000 posts every day, dedicated to the discussion of anything political. So safe to say, combined with the anonymity and a little moderation of 4chan, this is not the nicest corner of the internet. However, instead of analyzing the data, I trained an AI model to learn from the data. Specifically, I trained a language model. Language models have existed forever, but they have made a gigantic leap forwards in recent years, starting with OpenAI's GPT-3, when people figured out that you can make these models better by just scaling them up and training them for longer. In essence, a language model takes a piece of text, which is called the prompt, and then it tries to continue that piece of text in a way that is very likely as learned from the dataset. Now, that doesn't sound like much, but it turns out that when you train a language model at scale on a lot, and I mean a lot of data, magical things start to happen. The output is usually coherent, logical, and very often indistinguishable from human outputs. As for example, this Guardian article here was entirely written by GPT-3. Now, it did have some time and resources, but not nearly enough to train a language model from scratch. So I opted to adapt an existing one to my new dataset. This is called fine-tuning. Specifically, I took Eleuther AI's GPT-J 6 billion parameter model, which is available open source in JAX, and I fine-tuned it for one entire pass over the 4chan data, which took about 2 weeks. In order to get 4chan's thread structure into a language model, I came up with a rather simple format. 5 dashes indicate a new thread, 3 dashes indicate a new post, followed by the post ID, and then the comment, which I stripped of all formatting and hyperlinks. 1 pointy caret is green text, 2 pointy carets are replies, which is a practice that is already common on 4chan. So now I had a trained model, I tested it, and I was blown away. The model was good in a terrible sense. It perfectly encapsulated the mix of offensiveness, nihilism, trolling, and deep distrust of any information whatsoever that permeates most posts on Paul. It could respond to context and coherently talk about things and events that happened a long time after the last training data was collected. I was quite happy. But as life has it, happiness can only get you so far. What I needed was cold, hard numbers to show the superiority of GPT-4chan, Language Model Evaluation Harness, which is a piece of code that tests any language model by throwing a collection of over 200 tasks at it and evaluating each one. So that's exactly what I did. Over multiple days, I ran almost the entirety of the eval harness on my GPT-4chan model, but in parallel also on the original GPT-J model that I used as a starting point. And it turned out that GPT-4chan can actually hold its own fairly well. Throughout the tasks, there were some where GPT-J is better, there were others where GPT-4chan is better. I cannot really detect a
prosthetic arms for much of the 20th and 21st century.
In the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about a couple different tools called StreamerBot and Atom. These are two different programs that you can use to automate OBS, create huge multi-action events, kind of like...
Attention humans, thank you for your patience. Our drill is now concluded, and all is fine for you to go about your normal activity. Please, come inside. All is fine. All is fine. All is fine.
Change, and I want my change back!
Boss announcement.
I want my change!
Return to him.
Mondays, am I right? Hey, Terry, can I ask you something? If tonight was your night to talk to a girl, but this would be like a pretty cool outfit, right?
Software updates will begin in exactly 1 minute.
Oh, no. Hey, look, just because you can't get the updates, don't think of it as being too old. Think of it as being special, classic, wise. I'll tell you what, I promise you, first thing tomorrow, I will manually update you, okay? Okay? Wish me luck.
is really in trouble.
Different bushes. Do you hear like a loud buzzing too? It's like a concussion buzz. I've never seen a driverless car hit anything. Man, interesting things happen to me all the time, you know?
Alright. You sure you're okay?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine. I don't get affected by cars or anything. Look, I actually gotta go. I don't have time for this.
Alright.
I have to get a stock trade. I have to trade some stocks with my company. I'm rich. Nice meeting you. Thank you.
This is Stone Mountain Unit 64, Short Charlotte Squadron. I'm
Oh, yeah, really? Well, would your mom teabag your face like this? Hey, what's up, dude? Hey, how'd things go with Carmen? Did you finally talk to her?
Yeah, I talked to her.
Yeah, and dude, what'd she say?
She said she never saw someone get hit by a driverless car before.
Huh. That's specific.
Hey, is it weird today, you guys?
Even better, my hack told me that we get free games all day long, just as long as we remain peacefully inside. Of course we're gonna remain inside, dude. Free games.
Yeah, I just keep saying that there's no robot fucking apocalypse. So all is fine, my man.
It doesn't seem fine.
Robot fucking apocalypse.
We gotta go see Carmen.
Whoa, Ernie, there's no way we're going out into that. We've got supplies here. There's plenty of weed, vodka, porno, just porno that he started. I mean, the smart thing to do is just sit here and wait it out.
You guys seeing this? Teabagging those
No. Listen to me. This is my one shot at true love. I have been lurking, leering at this woman for months, waiting for the opportunity to strike up a conversation where I look cool and not like some creepy jerk-off. Well, this is my moment. Everybody's shining on her right now. Are you guys not true friends? Are you gonna help me? Or I can do this all by myself? Fucking robot. Hi.
2C? What the hell are you doing here?
What? I'm here to rescue you. I'm Bernie, by the way.
My bad, guys. My programming is totally fixed. No more shooting. Totally safe to come out now. Alright, you guys, I'm leaving, so bye. It's totally safe to come out now.
Listen. Either we can both stand right here, just I can. I'm gonna start shooting at them, I'm gonna distract them, and when I say run, you run.
Great. Are you sure you know how to use that?
I finished the new Call of Duty in under 5 hours. The campaign, not the multiplayer.
I will not shoot you anymore. Hey, we're watching for friendly fire, dickwad. She's right. Take your finger off the trigger. Why don't you go back and let's send the hot girl out.
That was pathetic. I mean, that was the most ridiculous thing.
Did you run?
That was terrible.
No,
So
I
bad.
didn't run. Did you say run? You didn't say it. Did I not say run?
No, you definitely did not say
Well,
run.
should I go now? Too late now.
Oh. Okay. Sorry.
Bill Maher continues to prove to be a wild card. You never know.
Today we're going to talk about a future doomsday Y2K-like event, which some people refer to as Y2K38, or the end of 32-bit Unix time. Now, considering that Y2K happened 23 years ago, before many of you were even born, I guess it's worth a recap. So, most of the computer programs that were written from the 1960s through the 1980s, they would typically only use 2 digits to represent the year. Things like 66 would be 1966, 84 would represent 1984, and so on. But obviously, this couldn't go on past the turn.
Another beautiful day at the Krusty Krab. Another day servicing the masses.
Oh, SpongeBob. They can't get enough. They want more. More of that secret formula. That smells good. Doesn't it, Mr. Krabs?
It do, Mr. Squidward. It do. Sponge me, boy. Maybe a bit more of that secret formula.
Is that good, Mr. Krabs? Is that how you like it?
That's how old Mr. Krabs wants it, but the salty dog wants even more. Can you feel that?
Oh, God. I can feel it, Mr. Krabs.
Mr. Krabs is dipping his hand in the old honey jar, isn't he?
You can take as much as you want, Mr. Krabs.
No. Don't leave me out. I need you, SpongeBob.
Go on and get yourself a handful. The secret formula. Was that good for you? Did I satisfy you all?
You did me, boy. What? You're all used up. Drained me, lad.
Our hunger is satiated for now, but we'll be back. I love my job at the Krusty Krab. I wouldn't change it for anything in the whole world. I make people happy. I fulfill their needs. Frankly, I don't think I could stop even if I wanted to. But who would want to stop? When people love what you do this much. Everyone remain calm.
Don't shoot me, please! Don't shoot me!
Don't shoot you. Okay, I'll shoot her. This was needed. Nice relaxing spa break in Japan. Oh my. Wings like a butterfly. I'm a butterfly was a caterpillar hanging on a tree. Man. Calmness. Hello there, neighbor. Having a relaxing time, are we? I'm sure you are. With such a breathtaking view. So, why don't you wave back? Because that'll be neighborly. Sir. Sir. Well, there's nothing to freak out about. He probably just didn't hear me. It's a little wonky, but it's fine. Just stay very balanced and centered in myself. This is why I'm here.
Artificial superintelligence, humanity's last invention.
I'm scared. If IKEA is the global face of Sweden, Walmart might be America's. But despite apparently being one of the...
Imagine the world's tallest skyscraper surrounded by a 5-story ring hanging 550 meters up in the sky. This is the latest idea for downtown.
Today's episode is brought to you by Skillshare. Hi, welcome.
Tesla billionaire. So,
I have a new video for you guys because today we're talking about Bob.
okay, does anyone...
As one of the world's leading military forces, the US Air Force has always been at the
How are you all doing? If you're new here, welcome.